In the border town of Grayella 12-year-old children gather before the village priest for their occupation appraisal. The appraisal ceremony continues as more children step forward one by one to learn what path fate has chosen for them. Locke stares ahead, stunned by the words that just left the priest's mouth. A beast tamer. That is what he is now. His childhood friend, Emmy, who received the magic user class, praises him for landing such a rare occupation. The other kids agree. It sounds impressive, though none of them, not even the priest, actually know what a beast tamer does. Isaac, given the gladiator class, and Kara, named as scientist, both step in to reassure Locke. Isaac tells him he believes he can make it work. Emmy declares she will become the greatest magic user in the world. Isaac vows to become the strongest gladiator alive. Locke says he will become the best beast tamer there is. Kara, still uncertain of herself, says she'll become a scientist capable of healing any wound. The four children clasp hands, making a promise to one another. They will train together and rise until they form an S-rank party. They raise their joined fists to the sky, sealing the vow as equals, bound by friendship rather than class rank. Locke recalls that his own occupation never mattered to him. What mattered was becoming the kind of support his friends needed, so they could keep chasing their dreams and having fun together. 3 years pass. The scene shifts to the royal capital, Kronto, its streets soaked under heavy rain. Locke, now 15, returns to the party's lodging, drenched and out of breath from carrying supplies. Before he can even announce himself properly, he overhears Kara's voice through the door. It is time to remove Locke from the party. Inside, Isaac argues that Locke is dead weight, useful only for carrying gear and running errands. Nobody else wants to do. Amy pushes back, reminding them that they are now a respected S-rank party, largely because of the effort everyone put in together. She asks whether Locke has at least been trying to fix his situation. Kara cuts in gently but firmly. However hard he has tried, she says, they can't keep a teammate who still can't fight, not forever. Isaac raises the real reason for urgency. A renowned hero has shown interest in joining their party, and this chance cannot be wasted. Kara adds that building a strong relationship with the hero could benefit their entire home village, and might finally draw the king's attention to their achievements, bringing their long-held dreams even closer. Locke steps into the room, soaked and shaken by what he just heard. Emmy turns to him, caught off guard, her sentence trailing off. Later, the group discusses their plan, with the hero's power added to their ranks. They're confident they can clear the dungeon of the flames of destruction. Kara replies that leaving it behind at the inn risks it being stolen, so she'd rather carry it along. Isaac closes the argument, telling Emmy there is no issue if she wants to date the hero. Kara calls out, stopping Isaac from leaving the room so abruptly. Locke stands frozen outside with the luggage still in his arms, insisting there is something he still needs to say. Locke reflects on his situation. Most beast tamers either spend their whole lives hunting for a magical beast to bond with, or abandon the path altogether. He himself has never had that chance. He recalls all the unglamorous work he has handled for the party, negotiating with the guild, cooking, carrying luggage, scouting ahead for danger, and taking hits meant for his teammates. Alone in a dark hallway, Locke sits with his knees drawn up, murmuring that they just don't understand. The scene shifts back to the rainy capital, where the party formally meets Kid, the celebrated hero. Kid greets them warmly, saying he heard their S-rank party hailed from Grayella and calls it an honor to work with them. Isaac can't hide his disbelief that the hero has actually joined their ranks. He mutters under his breath about it. Kid showers Emmy and Kara with compliments, calling himself blessed to have met such skilled, beautiful women. Isaac notes that Kid seems overly polite, maybe too much so. Kid suddenly rounds on Locke, sizing him up as nothing more than hired help. He warns him to handle his belongings carefully. Emmy quickly corrects him, explaining that Locke isn't their servant. Kid retracts his words at once, embarrassed by the misunderstanding. Kara suggests they get moving, brushing past the awkward moment. Emmy asks whether Locke could carry a few more of their things, prompting Kid to notice one bundle in particular before continuing. Kid asks the party to tell him more about the equipment they're bringing. He unsheathes his blade, introducing it as the dragon-slaying blade, a weapon gifted to him personally by the king. Its legend claims it can cut down even a dragon. Kara notices something odd and points out what looks like a small crack near the hilt. The others pause, uncertain though. They agree the sword is undeniably a famous. Isaac dismisses the concern, muttering that Locke is probably just faking interest to seem useful. He suggests they skip the discussion and head straight for the dungeon. Kara promises to focus on healing during the fight. Emmy vows they'll conquer the dungeon without fail. Kid declares he'll protect everyone from any harm that comes their way. The party races Kid's sword together in unity, celebrating their new alliance, while Locke watches quietly from the side, burdened with their supplies. The image echoes back to their childhood vow, hands joined and raised the same way. A stark contrast to how far they've drifted apart. Locke admits to himself that it seems he can no longer support them, not even from the sidelines. His dream was always to help his friends chase their own. The group arrives at the entrance to the Dungeon of Flames of Destruction. Isaac snaps at Locke for walking too slowly. Isaac barks at Locke to move faster, accusing him of making excuses. Locke tries to explain that he simply can't go quicker while carrying everything. But Isaac cuts him off, demanding to know if he even heard the order. Kid steps in gently, telling Locke he is sorry. He has to witness this side of Isaac, adding that all he wants is for the group to reach the boss as soon as possible. Locke trudges along, thinking bitterly that he is back to being treated like a servant. He hopes the monsters stay away from their path. Kid notices something strange, remarking that there seem to be far fewer monsters this time compared to his last visit to this dungeon. Kara mentions that back when she was a novice, she once explored this same dungeon with a self-proclaimed expert adventurer, an experience that nearly cost them their lives. Kid asks if Locke has ever explored this dungeon before. Locke silently fights off a monster that ambushes the group, taking the hit before anyone else can react. Isaac sneers that trash like these monsters are the worst kind of nuisance, while Locke simply moves on, checking the map for their next route as Isaac orders the others to attack. Isaac shoves Locke, growling that he is begging him to bring them to the boss faster, insisting his instructions weren't complicated enough to misunderstand. Kid, walking ahead, asks why it is taking so long. Kid flips through the map himself and grows suspicious, wondering aloud if Locke has been leading them on anything but the shortest route to the boss. Emmy and Kara react with alarm, asking if that is true. Kid insists this bastard hasn't been taking them the fastest way at all. Isaac accuses Locke of deliberately dragging them through detours as some form of petty revenge, demanding he stop fooling around. Locke tries weakly to explain that wasn't his intention. Stammering under the pressure, Kara suddenly slaps Locke across the face, silencing him mid-sentence. Locke stands frozen, stunned by the blow. Kara refuses to look at him, her expression tight with anger and disappointment. She tells him that if he keeps pulling stunts like this, even she won't be able to defend him anymore. This isn't a game, she says, unable to understand why he won't just listen. Locke is left reeling, realizing even Emmy now looks at him the same way the others do. He wonders when exactly he lost their trust. He recalls that he'd already explained his reasoning to them multiple times before, back when everyone still preferred avoiding monsters and taking detours to stay safe. Kid insists it won't be a problem for them to fight through more monsters directly. He declares that from now on, the party will take the shortest route straight to the boss. As monsters begin gathering ahead, he warns Isaac that moving too slowly will only draw more of them together. The party pushes forward, cutting down monsters as they come, while Isaac snaps that Locke is wasting their time. Kid remarks coolly that someone is bound to get fired after this. Kara mutters about what a useless fool he has become, while Locke silently wonders if he can even still call them his childhood friends. They finally reach the towering doors marking the boss chamber, standing together at the threshold. Kara confirms this is where the boss resides. The group stands united at the entrance, steeling themselves for what is ahead, with Locke trailing just behind. Before entering, Isaac shoves Locke again, blaming him for making them late. Locke suggests they take a moment to rest and unload some of the luggage first, but Isaac dismisses him immediately. Kid mocks Locke's suggestion as clueless, unable to read the mood. Kara comments dryly that not only were they delayed, they were also put in unnecessary danger along the way. Isaac turns on Locke one final time before the boss fight, declaring that since he is so useless anyway, he might as well be told now, once they clear this dungeon. The party raises their fists together, declaring themselves the #1 party. Isaac grins, announcing that since they finally arrived, it is time to head inside. The scene loops back to their childhood promise, hands stacked skyward, a memory now bitterly out of step with the people they've become. Before the boss door, Locke silently decides he'll support them one final time, with support magic and equipment enhancements. Kara mentions she was told to hold back and watch the fight from behind. The party steps forward, weapons raised, sparkling with the enhancements Locke provided just moments before. Deep in the chamber, something massive lies curled and sleeping, barely visible beneath the rubble. The group freezes at the sight, someone murmuring uncertainly that it looks like a gray wolf. Kid corrects them. Stunned, it isn't gray, it is silver. This is a Fenrir. Kara notes that no E-rank adventurer could ever defeat a gray wolf, let alone something of this caliber. Kid admits he never expected to encounter a legendary monster like a Fenrir inside an ordinary dungeon. He and Isaac charge forward anyway, determined to end the fight quickly. Their blades clash against the beast in a blinding flash. Locke shouts for them to stop, recognizing the monster for what it truly is. Kid swings again, confused, as the Fenrir shrugs off the attack completely, not a single wound showing. He calls it impossible, insisting it didn't take any damage at all. The Fenrir unleashes a howl that radiates raw pressure. Kara is struck by a fear status effect, freezing her and the others in place with terror. Isaac cries out in disbelief that the fight has barely started. Kid, panicking, admits that no matter how strong a hero he is, he cannot fight without a sword, ordering Isaac to retreat. Isaac curses under his breath, realizing that now that the beast is awake, retreating is their only option. The Fenrir growls low, and Kid notes bitterly that if it had simply stayed asleep, none of this would have happened. Kid orders a full retreat for all units, and the party scrambles backward through the tunnel in a panic lock, mutters that he simply happened to be standing in front. Isaac spits that it makes him sick, just watching, sneering that Locke is remarkably good at running away. Isaac shoves past him, saying it is useful to have an idiot like him around for exactly this kind of situation. Kid, smiling coldly, tells him not to worry. Isaac drives his sword into the ground, knocking Locke down and stripping his pack from him. Kid declares he'll be taking the spare sword and the king's blade for himself, telling Locke the rest of the luggage is his to keep, then adds coldly that he is free to take it with him straight to hell. Kid asks Isaac to confirm that this officially makes him part of the party now. Isaac grins and confirms it without hesitation. The Fenrir's growl echoes closer. Left behind with the luggage, Locke kneels alone in the chamber, asking aloud if this is really how he dies, refusing to believe it as Kid and Isaac's retreating shadows vanish into the light ahead. As Kara flees past him, she mutters a quiet apology, saying his name once before disappearing into the light with the rest. Emmy's voice trails behind her, mourning aloud that her dress, the expensive one Locke had carried the whole way, is gone now, left behind with him. Locke remains kneeling in the dark, unmoving as their footsteps fade. He lowers his head, tears welling up, admitting to himself that he doesn't even mind dying like this. He reflects that he must have been hated far more than he ever realized, watching the last of his party members vanish into the tunnel light. His mind drifts back to gentler days, when Kara once told him she believed in him and expected him to protect her. And when Isaac clasped his shoulder, certain that together they'd only grow stronger. Another memory surfaces, Emmy beaming, telling him their team always felt complete whenever he was with them. Kneeling before the towering Fenrir now looming over him, Locke laughs weakly to himself, asking what could possibly be wrong with him for still thinking of them so fondly. The beast's jaws open wide above him. Even now, forced into this fate by the very people he trusted, he realizes he simply cannot bring himself to hate them. The thought breaking free as tears spill down his face in the shadow of the Fenrir's roar. A monster looms over a boy left as bait in a dark dungeon, abandoned by the party he once supported. The creature growls, calling the humans cruel for sacrificing one of their own. To save themselves, jaws snap toward Locke, promising a swift, painless death. But something in those words catches him off guard, and his expression shifts from fear to shock. Despite the danger, Locke raises a hand and interrupts, stunned that the beast can speak his language. He asks directly if it understands him. The wolf studies him in silence before speaking again, addressing him with quiet curiosity. The wolf questions whether this connection comes from his abilities as a beast tamer. Locke admits that seems to be exactly the case. The wolf pulls free of its restraints, restless and unbothered, and asks if Locke still intends to fight it, treating the idea as a way to pass time, complaining about being trapped on this floor with nothing to do. It invites him to play. Locke refuses, asking instead to be let go. Rummaging through his bag, Locke jokes that he'd rather not die while playing, pulling out gear as the wolf watches with interest. He decides to use Isaac's breastplate as makeshift equipment, readying himself as the wolf lunges. The wolf strikes with surprising force, confused by what Locke is actually attempting to do. Chaos erupts as the wolf charges across the floor, uncertain itself of what is happening between them. Locke laughs, crediting childhood experience, raising a dog for how naturally this is going. The wolf, caught up in the moment, admits it is having genuine fun. Their attention turns to the sealed staircase. Even the wolf cannot break the barrier blocking the floor's only exit. Locke hesitates, then proposes an idea. The wolf reacts with a soft flinch, uncertain what he means. He asks if the wolf would come on an adventure with him instead of staying trapped. It brushes the offer off as a joke, and Locke quietly agrees it was. Pressing further, he asks if he is serious. The wolf reminds him that Fenrir never lie, and admits it isn't opposed to the idea after all. The Fenrir sits back, and a question appears, asking whether Locke wants to befriend it. Later, away from the dungeon, someone reads aloud from a book about beast tamers, mentioning something about hearing a voice in one's head after a certain event. The Fenrir declares it wishes to befriend him. Locke wonders aloud if this is the very requirement the book described. A message confirms he has met all the conditions. His monsters can now transform. A new garden has opened to him, and the Fenrir has officially become his friend. With little known about the beast tamer profession, Locke admits he doesn't fully understand what is happening, curious what effect this bond might have. The Fenrir laughs, feeling a surge of new power running through it. Locke watches, unsure what will happen next. The two properly introduce themselves. Locke gives his full name, Locke Sistel, and the wolf returns the greeting warmly. Locke asks for a name, explaining that constantly calling it by its species feels wrong. The Fenrir demands something cool and fitting. Locke hesitates, searching for the right word. He offers Lucky. The wolf repeats the name slowly, testing how it sounds. Lucky declares the name suits perfectly, thrilled with the choice. A treasure chest suddenly appears between them. Lucky explains that befriending a Fenrir counts as the equivalent of defeating a boss, which is why the reward has spawned. Inside sits a collar and a bracelet. Lucky insists on wearing the red collar immediately, delighted with how it looks. The same mysterious voice returns, announcing that the newly equipped bracelet grants access to something called the Mini Monster Garden, allowing Locke to enter or leave it at will. A strange spherical space appears before him. Locke has no idea what the Mini Monster Garden actually is. Lucky offers to demonstrate, asking what is wrong as Locke stares at the unfamiliar structure. He reaches out and touches it, and light bursts around him instantly. Locke reassures everyone that he is fine, though the reaction catches him off guard. Lucky, delighted by the whole ordeal, encourages him to try entering as well. Steeling himself, Locke decides to give it a try, closing his eyes as the world around him dissolves into light. He finds himself standing before a small thatched roof house beneath a dome. Like Sky, the space smaller and more intimate than he expected. Lucky's face appears beside him, both of them taking in the quiet enclosed world they've stepped into. Locke notes the place isn't especially spacious, but comments that it makes him want to take a nap regardless. He suggests they could use the hut as a storehouse whenever they need to keep their belongings safe, noting the pleasant temperature and weather inside. Lucky explains further, revealing that among magic items, some grant access to another dimension purely for storage. Locke considers their next move, figuring the other Shrank adventurers must have moved on by now. Lucky asks what they plan to do going forward. Lucky voices a hope of gathering more monsters like itself, wanting companions of its own kind. Locke agrees but points out the priority first is escaping this floor. Lucky assures him others trapped in dungeons likely feel the same pull toward freedom, and the idea of recruiting more monsters excites them both. Lucky breaks into a full sprint through the tunnel, Locke riding steady on its back. Grateful Locke thanks Lucky for the speed, reminded to hold on tight as the wolf promises they'll reach the barrier soon, covering in moments what would have taken far longer on foot. Locke steers them away from a direction crawling with monsters, wanting to avoid unnecessary fights, and directs Lucky toward a side passage instead of the shorter but more dangerous route. Lucky admits it is glad to have someone like him around, appreciating the strategic thinking. Mid-run, Locke suddenly calls for a stop, spotting something worth pausing for among the nearby creatures. He gathers materials from fallen monsters, explaining some can be turned into food and others sold for good money. Lucky, unfamiliar with the practice, questions what he is doing now. Locke stores the item using a method he wasn't even sure would work, surprising Lucky, who marvels at the trick, and asks when he learned to store things that way. Lucky wants to try it too, encouraged by Locke. The wolf gives it a shot, slamming a claw down to store an item of its own. The first attempt crushes the material by accident. Lucky adjusts, promising to use just the tip of its claw next time to avoid damaging anything further. Despite the careful approach, the material still gets destroyed. Locke gently reminds Lucky to be careful not to damage what they collect, while Lucky reacts with a small whimper of embarrassment. They arrive back at the sealed staircase, refocusing on the real problem still standing between them and the surface. Lucky presses against the barrier again, testing its strength with visible effort, but no success. Admitting defeat for now, Lucky calls the attempt a short-lived but fun adventure. Locke reflects quietly on how sturdy the barrier really is. Lucky suggests trying something different, telling Locke to simply get inside the mini-monster garden instead. Locke's eyes light up, realizing this might be exactly how they bypass the barrier. He hesitates briefly, uncertain if it will actually work, aware there is no guarantee of a safe passage. Steadying himself, he decides to go for it. He passes through cleanly, without any trouble. Lucky cheers him on from the other side, celebrating the success. Together, they emerge from the dungeon at last, standing beneath the open sky, having made it out without a single hitch. Standing beneath the open sky, Locke expresses genuine gratitude toward Lucky. The wolf brushes it off with pride, calling the whole escape smooth work befitting a Fenrir. Admitting it never imagined finding a way out of that dungeon. Locke returns the sentiment, hoping the two of them will get along well going forward. Lucky watches quietly as Locke reaches out toward it. A gesture passes between them, small but deliberate, sealing something unspoken between man and wolf. Locke presses his fist gently against Lucky's nose, the two sharing a quiet moment of understanding beneath the open sky. With the sun rising ahead, Locke decides it is time to head back to town. Reflecting on everything that has happened, he realizes that for the first time, he has made a Fenrir his friend, marking the start of something entirely new. Crowds assembled nervously outside the regal capital's Adventurers Guild as strain filled the air. A young man quietly stood prior to them, overshadowed by a towering wolf, like being behind him. While he clarified the beast was his familiar, guards darted in, mistaking it for a danger. Although his protests, the soldiers readied for battle as a curious receptionist stepped outside. Identifying him, she challenged his unforeseen return, puzzled by his absence from the mission. The crowd stood astonished as the young man presented the huge creature as Fenrir. His familiar shock expanded among the warriors and citizens upon learning he was now a beast tamer. Astonishment deepened once the fabled Fenrir calmly yawned, attracting everyone's full attention. Within the guild, he completed the companion registration while adventurers nearby gazed on curiously. He then disclosed that his team had betrayed him and left him injured during their mission. She asked if he was all right, and he verified the piercing hadn't created any serious wounds. As they discussed Kid, she recalled the stories out of his earlier failed dungeon effort. He clarified how those rumors developed, suggesting Kid had used allies as bait to escape. Considering on his role, he believed his weakness led to being selected in the betrayal. Although his doubts, she demanded he had always been the most vital member of the team. He showed which he'd been dismissed early during the dungeon mission, believing his class was replaceable. Although his doubts, she firmly stated the party's high rank was gratitude to his aid. She told him which betraying an ally violated association rules, regardless of combat skill. He noted their delay in returning out of the dungeon power reflect their real capabilities. A menacing figure verified MEI and the others remained trapped underground. Still using Kid, Rika alerted him which helping the team again could lead to more injustice, but he ran out. He clarified which he simply wished to return their belongings, not for reconciliation. Using calm understanding, she watched him go while others spotted his sudden departure. Outside, children played freely nearby Fenrir, who kept a near and quiet watch. Locke asked Fenrir to join him, stating this could be the last moment he'd aid them. Fenrir gave Locke a sharp look as youths tugged playfully at his braids, while Locke grinned quietly, waving farewell to the kids. Fenrir recognized Locke's decision and accepted to follow, lacking objection. Using determination, Locke mounted Fenrir and dashed out of the city toward the labyrinth. Elsewhere, within the dungeon, Kid grew frustrated with his lost and confused group. One member gestured out they always relied on Locke for navigation, showing his calm importance during the fight. One teammate challenged if they still deserved their SES rank. After noticing their faltering skills, Kid and one more started arguing, blaming every other for poor performance and faulty equipment. Their chosen shortcut just led to endless waves of creatures, making their progress still harder. Although expecting weaker foes deeper in, the group located the dungeon increasingly deadly and overwhelming. Exhausted, they at last paused to rest, surrounded by clues of an ongoing and worsening danger. The group stayed hopeful, which reaching the fourth floor would ease their struggle with the monsters. Kid became defensive once asked about his spare armament, dodging the question and lashing out. Following examining his blade, doubts arose about its suspiciously perfect condition. Although constant use, strain escalated as Kid insulted the party, blaming them for his situation and failing control. One more teammate revealed the reality their power came from Locke's divine support all along. Kid smirked, suggesting their rise to grade in only 3 seasons was no coincidence. Angrily, one teammate denied the claim, insisting their grade came from personal attempt, not external aid. It was clarified that divine protection strengthened gear and allies, but just once the caster was present, they had unknowingly relied on Locke's aid, not once identifying or appreciating his contribution. In fact, lacking him, their true ability barely matched which of average she-rank adventurers. Isaac stood shocked, realizing his rank power had just been possible because of Locke. Flashes of the past came back Locke. was always commended as Isaac struggled for recognition. Though Isaac rejected the plan, Locke's quiet contributions persisted in everyone's memory. Kid, irritated by the predicament, began requiring magic usage from the remaining mage. The healer confessed their arcane reserves were low, barely enough for 1 or 2 further casts. The mage verified she could still battle if she conserved magic, and Kid embraced the plan. They realized fighting the ant creature's skull on was dangerous, especially in their current state. Roles were swiftly assigned. Isaac could lead, trailed by the mage, and then the healer. Using the formation set, the healer began casting glow magic to support the party. Joined. The group charged forward, preparing to pause through the swarm of orange ants. Lacking alert, Kid turned on the healer and slashed her out of behind. He harshly stated she was no further required after using her magic. Bleeding and helpless, she viewed her teammates flee. Recognizing she had remained used. Encircled by creatures, she screamed as the swarm closed in, abandoned, lacking mercy. Deep within the 4th floor of the labyrinth of flames, Kido hit below his own teammate, without hesitation. Claiming it was a necessary sacrifice, their own chief justified the move to ensure the group's survival. Smirking, he recalled the rest that quiet made them accomplices. Shock moved as he charged them of benefiting from the injured and abandoning loyalty. As tensions exploded, he condemned them all as frail, unworthy allies. He'd not once faith again. Kido struggled against relentless blue insects, confused by their abrupt power and resistance. Uncertainty crept in as he recalled how much he'd relied on the rest to carry him until currently. Simply as beat loomed, a mysterious figure reached atop a colossal beast, crushing the enemy swarm. A tense canine hit down the insects, stunning everyone with its overwhelming power. To their shock, the rider was a former ally living and returning out of the brink of death. Using cold resolve, the returned warrior proposed eliminating the traitors while within the dungeon. Won begged for Kara's rescue, showing she had remained left behind on the 5th floor. Enraged by their own hypocrisy, the youthful man rejected their plea, naming them scum. Disappointed by their absence of remorse, he shifted aside, choosing not to intervene. Afterward, his partner detected Kara's scent, triggering thoughts of her kindness and his lingering worry. After a moment's pause, he embraced the plea and lowered isolated toward the 5th floor. Charging into the swarm, he and his creature partner tore across the aggressive blue ants. Despite their own power, the horde kept growing, drawn by the odor of blood. Injured but committed, the young man leaped back into battle without uncertainty. Using Lucky at his side, his terror faded, replaced by unwavering courage. Encircled by the remains of fight, Locke and Lucky captured their breath after surviving the swarm. Praising his partner's moves, Lucky admitted the growth shown in their own recent clash. Using assurance renewed, Locke declared them the strongest group. Turning their own notice forward, they began searching for Kara across the scattered bodies. Finally, they located her unmoving and injured among the fallen enemies, her fate uncertain. Locke remained quietly, gazing at Kara's unconscious body, emotions stirring under the surface. A memory of her pleased smile and elixir, making skills returned in his mind. Cradling her softly, he said sorry for arriving too late, packed with quiet regret. Weeping welled as he confessed his thanks, recognizing her unwavering assistance. Then, to his shock, she moved awake hungry, living, and blissfully ignorant of the chaos. Kara, groggy and puzzled, assumed she'd got to heaven, shocked to see Locke prior to her. Regretfully, she apologized for abandoning him, expressing her sadness using honesty. Locke, unfazed, told her which the actual issue was her supposed demise. Disclosing the next danger, he presented Fenrir, the gatekeeper of Hell, as their upcoming challenge. Amazed by the title and overpowered, Kara fainted, leaving Locke and Fenrir to quietly watch. Locke chose it was moment to go back to town and asked Lucky to carry Kara. Using slight reluctance, Lucky agreed, though. He usually reserved witch class for Locke alone. Amused by Lucky's scarce kindness, Locke appreciated him warmly. While heading out, they stumbled upon the gateway to a nest packed using orange ant eggs. Excited by the discovery, Lucky dashed in, keen to feast, whereas Locke cautiously trailed, between the shattered remains. One egg remained untouched, strangely different out of the rest. Abruptly, cracks expanded across its shell, trailed by the hatching of dozens of orange ants. As Locke braced on his own for fight, one of them called him Papa, catching him entirely off guard. Wary as Lucky teased him about attracting unusual followers, Locke stayed speechless amidst the swarm. The newborn ants neared softly, offering friendship and perhaps new, unexpected companions, although unsure. Locke couldn't ignore the tone urging him to receive the young ants. Feeling sympathy, he accepted to ally with them, rather than exit them behind. In a flash of glow, the insects transformed inside humanoid familiars, now bonded to him, stunned by their new forms. Locke viewed them shift into the mini creature garden. Entrusting Kara's care to Lucky, he ready to explore this odd realm of summoned existence. In the mini-monster garden, Locke was given a chance to improve several elements. He selected to enhance the river, pond, fruit trees, and hut, intrigued regarding the results. Moments later, the garden bloomed sparkling using life and arcane growth, all nearby him. The orange ant familiars enjoyed their fresh space, busy using bright power. They greeted Locke warmly, sorting creature resources, and naming him Papa once again. Locke playfully denied being their own father, but commended the ant girl's attempts nonetheless. As he patted her skull, he couldn't aid but wonder why she isolated wore a tiara. Preparing to exit, he requested the insects to stay focused, then hurried back to Lucky. Worried, Locke learned there was unforeseen problem waiting for him. Disheartened, Lucky showed every egg had hatched, departing nothing departed to snack on. Locke grinned awkwardly, promising Lucky a reward afterward, easing the mood as the day shut. Locke reached at the regal capital and carried Kara safely to the Adventurers Guild. Outside the building, he calmed Lucky prior to heading within isolated. Inside the hall, an intense dispute erupted as one member refused to take responsibility for a fallen comrade. Locke came back only in time, greeted with surprise by the team. Strain arose once conflicting testimonies exposed contradictions in their earlier statements. Isaac tried to manipulate the predicament, pleading using Locker to protect his reputation. Locker replied harshly, exposing Isaac's betrayal of Kara in the labyrinth. Seized off guard, Isaac panicked as the rest recalled how he had deserted his allies. Desperately, he blamed Locker of lying out of bitterness, but the strain solely grew. Remaining quiet, Locker questioned Isaac's integrity and demanded proof for the claims caused. Kara challenged the accusation, pointing out the absence of proof and the seriousness of slander. Guild members grew anxious as the issue endangered to reach the royal court. Isaac continued on, although the alert, confident in his stance. Lacking uncertainty, Locke seized the weapon to demonstrate the fact. The damaged armor verified his claim, departing no chamber for denial. Isaac remained quiet as accusations flew, the atmosphere tense using mistrust. Doubts about fact and loyalty resounded aloud. The man moved focus, requiring an answer about Kara's destiny. Stunned faces shifted toward the quiet girl. Weeping flowed as regret spilled. She fell, apologizing for abandoning Kara throughout a crucial instant. Cheers went after her hurt. The warrior rejected Kara's death as weakness, denying all accountability. He challenged the claim harshly, mocking the lack of proof, whereas avoiding the true question. Locke leaned in, pressing Kara to awaken. He told her which the man who tried to kill her was still ridiculing her. Slapping her cheeks, he jolted her conscious. Kara moved, gradually puzzled and still dreaming. Emmy darted in, hugging Kara firmly in comfort. Their own reunion was interrupted as the team reached. Kara remained upright, gesturing directly at the culprit. She blamed him plainly of striking her out of behind. Murmurs moved between the soldiers. Doubt replaced loyalty. The team challenged the warrior, declaring they had enough proof to expose his guilt completely. Every violation of guild rules was listed, stripping aside his status and ego as a hero. With the issue resolved, the team voiced thanks and prepared to return to their own duties. Isaac showed up quietly, bowed low, and clenched his hand in quiet desperation. He begged for assistance, claiming pressure made him to abandon his friend. Isaac challenged the timing, suspecting the strike was premeditated and not an abrupt act. The fact surfaced verification had been sought before the treachery, casting doubt on their intentions. Recognizing the setup, Isaac blamed both of plotting his demise from the start, shaken but firm. In a rush of panic, he said sorry, and asserted it was a mistake, pleading for forgiveness. The reply was cold. He had never been worthy of a real S-grade team. Isaac snapped back, declaring their team just reached S-grade because Locke supported them from the shadows. Others verified it, lacking Locke. Their strength barely matched which of B or C rank adventurers. She added which still E-rank novices with Locke could equal their current skill, exposing their dependence. Furious, he rejected her remarks, demanding what a mere receptionist knew about power or grade. Challenging her assertion, he proposed a duel. If Locke defeated, he'd receive demotion. If not, they'd erase the incident. The guild resolved on a fair method. Locke could form a team with E-rank adventurers and prove his strength. Although hesitant at first, Locke agreed to the duel, willing to receive it as a one-time request. Emmy and Kara remained chosen as challengers. Kid was excluded, previously feared of past offenses. Kara verified the suspicion dated back seasons, but he taunted the lack of solid proof. Abruptly, a man moved forward, offering to testify and expose the reality from the shadows. The hooded man moved forward, disclosing ties to the A-grade party, Dark Spear, and began his testimony. He gestured directly at the charge, claiming the same man had betrayed and deserted his friends in a deadly dungeon. Although efforts to expose the fact back then, no one listened. His warnings dismissed due to the other's regal connections. Regret flooded his tone as he said sorry, wishing he'd done more to prevent repeated tragedy. Currently, the fact cornered the blamed, standing and connections no further guarded him from justice. Kid withdrew from the group, blaming them for everything, ridiculing their power and credibility. In a brutal outburst, he struck the guards, showing no remorse for his betrayal or history crimes. As the rest tried to reason using him, he rejected their words and seized someone as a hostage. Employing her as a shield, he backed aside, ignoring all pleas to halt. Screaming his frustrations, he compelled them flee, blinded by rage and desperation. Holding Emmy hostage, Kid insisted in flee route, threatening her life if stopped. Using cruel remarks, he dragged her across the gates, ignoring all cries behind him. Abruptly, everybody was stunned by a burst. Kid lay unconscious, Emmy safe, and a large beast wagged its tail. Lucky remained pleased, having knocked Kid out using a single slap. Cheers followed. Kid was bound, and Lucky's timing saved the morning once more. Kido was dragged aside in chains by the guards as the guild observed in quiet. Ryuji nodded steadily, thanking Lucky for his aid during the tense instant. Shortly after, his former team came back his belongings. One participant moved ahead and bowed in apology. Though the hurt remained, Ryuji embraced it with composure and chose to move on. An offer to rejoin the group trailed, leaving him unsure but listening cautiously. Locke firmly rejected the plan of rejoining the team, stating he had no intention of working using them again. Kara confidently announced she and Locke could start a new team, blaming Isaac for their betrayal. Startled, Locke reminded Kara she had two left behind him when it mattered most. Arguments broke out, using blame shifting between Kara and Isaac for history decisions and broken faith. At last, the silent member stepped in, acknowledging Locke's value and their defeat to consider his feelings. Emmy humbly confessed their faults, recognizing they were the ones indeed in the wrong. Kara attempted to shift the focus, asking if they could continue using the duel discussion. A new guild member clarified the quest rules, requiring a B or C grade mission against every other. Isaac scoffed, confident their S grade team could easily win the confront. The assignment involved rare items, worm parts, emeralds, and mythical beasts, raising the stakes. Isaac taunted Locke, challenging his readiness, but Locke calmly accepted the confront despite the risk. The association girl teased Isaac, daring him to quit and taunting the S-grade party's ego. Details of every member's weaknesses were revealed, phobias and failures laid bare by the guild's information. Using pressure mounting, Isaac at last agreed, pushing back his irritation and shouting his resolve elsewhere. Locke asked Lucky to wait outside as preparations for the mission began. Locke voiced his distrust for disloyal teammates and such people who ignored instructions. The bright association official revealed her surprising status as the guild's vice advisor, offering aid. Locke understood she had worked at the association for decades. Although her youthful appearance, he inquired regarding the E-rank explorer, but she wavered to reveal more. She clarified the fresh partner was yet adapting, though unlikely to cause disobedience or betrayal. Locke was led to the training region, where he could meet a promised new partner for inspection. A enigmatic elf girl stood quietly, her eyes chilly and her posture tense. She was presented as Shannon, the E-grade explorer he was meant to evaluate. It was showed which Shannon wore a slave collar and served the pair as a fighter and bound servant. Locke was shocked to learn her 5 previous owners had all died beneath unexplained circumstances. Shannon's past became darker as it was showed 2 of her previous masters died out of poison. She harshly named herself a goddess of death, cautioned Locke to leave if he valued life. Despite the danger, Locke voiced his intent to turn into her new owner regardless. She lunged and continued her sword to his neck, testing his determination. Locke quietly revealed he didn't dodge on reason, showing his trust in her. Shannon screamed, incapable to understand why Locke could danger his life for her. She showed her despair, having lost hope since becoming a slave and pushing the rest aside. Tears streamed below her face as she confessed the hurt of seeing everybody die because of her. Locke quietly responded, saying if he was mightier, her curse wouldn't issue. He moved ahead, declaring he couldn't abandon someone so gentle and broken. Shannon snapped in irritation, but Locke remained firm, refusing to abandon his choice. He tested her resolve, asking if she indeed intended to give up once more. Using strain high, Shannon charged in full power, blades clashing in a flurry of motion. Locke held his earth, pleased by her honed abilities and sharp movements. In the end, he disarmed her, quietly stating her technique was sturdy but too predictable. Although being knocked below, Shannon charged again, refusing to accept beat. She unleashed a desperate assault, but Locke countered quickly and slammed her into the earth. Bruised and breathing heavily, she yet shouted, "No," and resisted ending the duel. Tears in her tone, Shannon screamed which losing could mean death. echoing her past trauma. Driven by dread and ego, she announced she couldn't afford to lose to Locke. Locke swore to show his resilience and alerted Shannon not to faint from surprise. Using a mighty shout, he summoned Fenrir, his legendary beast companion. Shannon stood frozen as the huge canine growled, its existence overwhelming. Fenrir howled using power, shaking the air and stunning everybody in the arena. As quiet fell, a scarce rainbow dragonfly went down, marking the moment's end with awe. Shannon remained shocked, unable to believe Locke had tamed a fabled Fenrir as his familiar. Locke softly thanked his companion, leaving Shannon speechless as she challenged the real extent of his power. Seth trailed behind his sister, keen to be near. Although her warnings to stay put, existence in the elf settlement was quiet. Seth, the youngest between 5 brothers, constantly grinned brightly, which calm shattered once Seth vanished into the forest of Amity without a trace. Although orders to stay home, his sister clenched her hand, committed not to sit idle. She moved into the woods alone, shouting his title, unwilling to leave him behind. She got to the mansion beneath the full moon, sensing peril from its eerie silence. Legends told of a sorcerer once living in calm using elves deep inside the forest. Using the forest examined, she thought, Seth had entered the ancient structure untouched by time. Within, all things was spotless, as if the mansion was never deserted. Every creak in the darkness pushed her ahead as she shouted out for Seth. Within a silent study, she uncovered Seth unconscious on a desk, his body still rushing to his side. She located him breathing weakly, knowing moment was slipping aside. As she hovered across him, a black eye-shaped aura started to form behind her. Shocked, she shifted, staring at the looming power while the door slammed shut. 2 dark portals emerged, every requiring a choice. Only one life could be saved. Crumpled on the floor, she begged the shadow to spare Seth, her tone trembling. A keen hurt struck her chest. Then darkness asserted her memory. She awoke in bed, Seth bright and unharmed, as if not anything had happened. At first, she thought it was just a dream, but an object felt different. Soon, insects about her started dying mysteriously. Then larger animals trailed in turn. Tragedy struck again as still the family's horse crumpled, lacking reason. Although her warnings, her parents rejected her fears, so she chose to depart alone. Beyond the settlement, life was harsh shortly. She was captured and sold inside slavery. Yet in which misfortune she met a wise old man who said softly, as her initial owner, he treated her using kindness and shared knowledge of the realm. 6 months afterward, her initial owner died in his sleep, departing her in mourning. Soon after, the next 2 masters met abrupt ends, one out of illness, the other out of a fall. Over time, anyone near to her perished, earning her the title Goddess of Demise. She isolated herself in a cell, incapable to bear further loss or remorse. But the Explorers Guild proposed her a new route, an F-rank party, and a chance to start again. She pushed the rest aside, hoping rejection could keep them safe from her curse. Many explorers declined to work using her, fearing her ominous nickname. Afterward, Locke Sistel emerged, quiet, composed, and undeterred by her warnings. He acknowledged her hurt but not once paused, stronger than anyone she'd known. Still, once she begged him to halt, he kept fighting, refusing to abandon her. Locke summoned Fenrir using might and assurance, vowing he wouldn't fall so easily. An enormous wolf emerged at his side, its roar shaking the air nearby them. To command a fabled Fenrir, Locke proved power far beyond which things she imagined. Memories of rejection and terror overpowered her, but deep inside, a new feeling moved. Using weeping falling, she wished to live, believing she could faith him to stand beside her. Locke darted to her side as she crumpled. Overcome using emotion, she at last let go, the strain built across time flowing out in tears. They offered her space to rest. Locke quietly watching across her. Fenrir, anxious his roar caused problem, but Locke comforted him with praise. Recognizing his howl had knocked an avian from the sky, Fenrir tilted his skull in confusion. The sky avian unexpectedly gave friendship, and Locke agreed to without uncertainty. Now part of his growing team, the avian was safely sent to the creature garden. Later, Locke softly asked Shannon if she felt better, his tone quiet. Overpowered, she bowed greatly and apologized for her earlier conduct. Although unsure, she grinned using hope, ready to join him if he'd allow her to try. Using matching resolve, Locke and Shannon locked their bond with a hand bump. Fenrir welcomed her warmly, playfully bouncing his paw inside the motion. Although surprised, Shannon reassured him, laughing for the first time in ages afterward. Fenrir softly said to Locke he sensed a mighty curse within her. The curse, shadowy in life, draining, verified her fears it was the power behind the deaths. Fenrir disclosed the grim fact the curse could eventually claim Shannon's life as well. Locke at once questioned if there was a way to lift it, hope flickering in his tone. As Fenrir confessed he couldn't handle delicate sorcery, He hinted that Locke might succeed. To transfer the method, Fenrir bit Locke's skull, causing an abrupt surprise. A surge of mystic knowledge hurried into Locke's mind, filling it with unfamiliar symbols and glow. Supported by Fenrir, Locke prepared to attempt the ritual, confidence growing in the party. Before he could start, the guildmaster emerged and halted the instant. Lacking explanation, he forbade the curse's removal, departing Locke amazed and uncertain. Rock challenged the guild, requiring replies for denying Shannon's curse removal. Titus, the association master, asserted Shannon was guild property, bound by strict rules forbidding amateurs out of lifting curses. Irritation mounted as Rock understood delaying further could endanger her, but Titus stayed indifferent. A reminder of history defeat halted Rock's anger, forcing him to reflect on his moves. Ultimately, he calmed, acknowledging exhaustion while Titus viewed using a knowing smirk. Locke challenged the restriction, proposing a loophole. If Shannon weren't an association employee, the rule wouldn't apply. Titus, amused, confessed Locke's keen pondering, hinting at a deeper plan. Using a smirk, the association master gave a solution by Shannon's freedom. Startled by the proposal, Locke wavered as Titus encouraged him to decide. Though skeptical, Locke was tested to consider the guild's real position and his place in it. Locke replied confidently, believing the association should serve explorers' well-being above all else. He gestured out Isaac's misdeeds, arguing justice had remained delayed far too lengthy. Risa expressed hope, which the guilty power reflect on their conduct through future trials. Using quiet resolve, Locke embraced change, wishing growth even for those who hurt others. Shannon, recalling her suffering, was commended for her compassion and power, although her past. The Fenrir spirit recognized which both Locke and Shannon had endured hardship for the rest's sake. Titus observed Shannon's assistance for Locke was mutual and urged open choice. Locke recalled his history suffering, previously convinced no one cared for his hurt. Gradually, he understood he had allies who indeed gazed out for him. Shannon paused, burdened by her standing, unsure if her opinion still mattered. Shannon assembled her bravery and confessed her wish to stay by Locke's side. Shifted by her resolve, Locke agreed to carry her in, brushing off any worry about cost. Risa brightly disclosed which their quest reward matched the price to free Shannon. Lacking delay, Locke readied to lift the curse which bound her. Using determination, he started the ritual as Shannon nodded, ready for her chains to rest. As Locke began the magic, a huge shadowy force surged upward, shocking everyone present. Realizing it was the curse's source, Locke battled its effort to overwhelm his form. Using effort, he resisted the menacing power and pushed across the intense resistance. At last, the curse shattered, vanishing inside the sky as the rest gazed on. Titus commended his success, naming it impressive. Locke had dispelled a real demon's curse. Locke challenged the curse's origin, but no one had detailed replies, just rumors. A terrifying vision emerged, hinting that a fiend ruling the realm power be summoning cursed creatures. Shannon, with thanks, thanked Locke genuinely, prepared to move forward by his side. As the party wrapped up, Locke shifted his focus to the next confront ahead. Using optimism in their hearts, they gazed toward the future. Prepared for what's next, within the bracelet's secret realm, the group marveled at its vast, beautiful dimension. Lucky teased Locke as he became flustered beneath everyone's focus. Shannon spotted a sky avian, and Locke realized it as one he'd befriended previously. She commended Locke's rare abilities, admiring how exceptional he was not only using beasts. As hunger hit, the group shared a laugh and agreed to enjoy a meal as one. Locke was shocked to learn a labyrinth was being built under their storehouse. A huge pit disclosed the reality, leaving both him and Shannon baffled. Abruptly, a childlike monster ran up and shouted "Locke Papa," catching everyone off guard. Uncertainty trailed as they questioned whether this odd girl was truly an orange ant. Locke awkwardly confessed he was present at their own hatching, as Lucky teased him for it. Shannon playfully swore to carry Locke's secret to the grave, flustering him further. She became annoyed, wishing she was able to understand Lucky like Locke did. Still, although she could speak using ants, Shannon confessed she couldn't understand Lucky at all. It shifted out. Lucky used human language, just using Locke, confusing everyone further. The ant girl clarified her unique class. She was a chief, not only another drone. The ant young woman gave to copy her skill, allowing Shannon to understand remaining species. To everyone's shock, it worked instantly. Shannon was able to now speak using Lucky, thankful and shifted. She thanked the young ant, realizing her abilities moved far beyond speech. Locke chose it was time to title the ants, starting using Petra. Excited by her new identity, Petra beamed using honor, keen to see her clan named too. Locke hesitated once faced using a team of identical-looking ants, unsure how to name them. Attempting his best, he assigned plain labels, orange A cross E, to their delight. They celebrated their own fresh identities happily, much to Locke and Shannon's amusement.
Locke vowed further fitting names once their personalities became clearer, then changed focus to the dungeon. Within, the ants had built specialized rooms for chilling meat, drying leather, and storing sorcery gems. Locke commended the ants for building the whole labyrinth in such a short time. Pleased by their work, he invited all present to share a meal jointly. As preparing, he understood they lacked proper cookware and required basic tools. Shannon requested regarding the menu, intrigued as Locke started slicing ingredients. Using limited time, Locke chose to simply fry the meat for everybody to enjoy. Locke examined for cabbage to enhance his dish but intended to fry the meat regardless. The vendor regretfully clarified which cabbages had turned into scarce and unavailable for sale. Though disappointed, Locke embraced it and ready to depart with Shannon. Abruptly, Isaac appeared with his group, confronting them with a bold appearance.
Isaac faced Rock in the middle of the market, ridiculing him for wasting moment and offering a humiliating way back into the team. Abruptly, Shannon stepped in between them, blocking Isaac using keen intensity, catching both sides off guard. Tensions escalated as Rock steadily rejected every association using Isaac, making his stance clear, lacking caution. Isaac launched forward with a grin, aiming at attack. Prior to impact, Rock quickly intercepted the strike, gripping Isaac's face mid-air. Rock firmly controlled Isaac, challenging his aggressive behavior, lacking hesitation. In an effort to belittle Shannon, Isaac taunted her abilities and insulted her bond using Locke. Unfazed, Rock rejected Isaac's provocation, while one more teammate insisted he retract his words. Shannon, enraged, protected Locke's dignity, rejecting the plan of treating him like a tool. The scene ended using a question lingering: had Shannon and Rock indeed become a group? Rock presented Shannon as an E-grade adventurer standing by her side, lacking hesitation. Kara, unimpressed, bluntly insulted Shannon's appearance, lacking every consideration for her feelings. With a sly grin, she advised Shannon to gown stronger to complement Locke during missions. Remaining composed, Rock told Kara which power had not anything to do using fashion. Although the strain, Kara wrestled to hide her frustration, unable to receive Shannon's place beside Locke. Emmy stepped forward and genuinely said sorry to Shannon for the disrespect shown by her party. Lowering her head, she acknowledged past mistakes and voiced remorse toward Locke for the team's conduct. Although uncertain about her future, Emmy wished to test herself across a duel before deciding to quit adventuring. Locke recognized her resolve using a quiet response, ready to face the challenge ahead. As Emmy's team departed, Shannon and Locke readied to follow, their next steps previously in motion. Using a renewed grin, Locke announced he wouldn't lose again, suggesting they return for dinner. As the evening started, Lucky abruptly emerged in a puff of smoke, startling the others. A sneeze out of Lucky scattered flour everywhere, covering the team in a gentle white cloud, although the mess. Locke finished cooking and stated the meal was prepared. Everybody assembled joyfully, savoring Locke's fried chicken, cheers and warmth filling the festive air. Locke told Shannon to be cautious as all present enjoyed the hot meal, smiling at their reactions. Blushing slightly, Shannon confessed the food was delicious as the rest devoured their portions with joy. After dinner, Locke started outlining the plan for their next mission, a trip to the Verdant Leaves Labyrinth. He proposed 2 routes, gesturing out the risks of the direct forest route versus the lengthy detour. Confident in their pace, Locke predicted they'd arrive first, knowing Isaac's team could carry the slower carriage route. Locke clarified his reasoning, confident which Isaac's team wouldn't risk taking an unknown route to the dungeon. Once everyone had eaten, he rallied the team with power and signaled the start of their own trip. Riding atop Lucky, they dashed under the moonlight as Locke and Shannon voiced the group's thanks. As they moved quickly across the forest, creatures kept their distance from the powerful Fenrir. Abruptly, Shannon spotted faint cries nearby, prompting them to halt and investigate a possible danger. Locke and Shannon uncovered the source of the cries, an unusual winged figure sobbing aloud. The group neared cautiously, realizing it wasn't a statue but a weeping gargoyle-like monster. Shocked by their existence, the creature abruptly screamed and launched a chaotic attack. To their shock, it challenged them using wind sorcery, prompting Lucky to respond using Wind Bullet. Locke cheered as the magic attacked with precision, sending the wild attacker tumbling back in beat. As the sorcery intensified, Locke and the team abruptly realized the spell's direction was dangerously off. Shannon panicked, cautioned that the blast could reach and ruin the royal city if not stopped immediately. Lucky acknowledged he had lost control, causing Locke to make a split-second choice and dash forward. Focusing his sorcery, Locke used a barrier in hopes of deflecting the unstoppable power surge. Using pure willpower, he braced against the massive magic, determined to protect everyone behind him. Locke endured the overwhelming power, straining against the raw power, agony clear on his face. Across pure determination, he pushed forward, shouting encouragement to himself, whereas Shannon pleaded for him to hold on. As the smoke settled, Locke remained alone, breathless but relieved, recognizing he had succeeded to divert the blast. Shannon and Lucky appeared from the haze using the Fenrir, yet covering its eyes in fear. Seeing Locke safe, Shannon darted to check on him, the pair relieved to find every other unharmed. Shannon spotted Locke's injured arm, but he quietly assured her all things was fine. Using a quick drink of the elixir, his wounds healed instantly, surprising Shannon using its effect. Locke revealed he had crafted the elixir himself, while Lucky said sorry for losing command of his strength. Locke softly comforted him, identifying Lucky's intent to protect and expressing genuine gratitude. At last, Locke proposed they find a way for Lucky to clash, lacking causing massive destruction again. Using the fight over, Locke and Lucky prepared to resume training. While the unusual creature trembled nearby, as Locke neared, the panicked stone demon shrieked, overpowered and clearly out of his depth. A stone demon sat weeping isolated in the woods, startling a team of travelers. The group asked his weeping. He disclosed he had been rejected from the Fiend Lord's army, overwhelmed with sadness. For a century, he worked as a castle cleaner, lacking mighty sorcery, made just from discarded materials. Following a leadership change, he was deemed useless and promptly fired. Wandering aimlessly, he got to the settlement tired, lost, and struck during his escape. The stone demon showed he'd just ever cleaned the castle, never meeting a human until now. Considering on mistreatment and his flawed creation, he challenged the reason for his existence. Although labeled as made from scraps, others knew gargoyles were elite and required major might to create. Uncertain regarding his future, he was asked if he wished to join them and broke inside weeping. Hearing kind words about his dedication, he was shocked. At last feeling seen for his value, using overwhelming gratitude, the gargoyle begged to join their journey, keen to be embraced. Intrigued, the boy asked if the gargoyles might have been locked. The creature confessed uncertainty about his origins. Although the mystery, he welcomed the gargoyle as a fresh friend, bringing a bright grin to the creature's face. The bond enabled the system, transforming the gargoyle inside a registered companion. To accommodate the growing group, the hut was enlarged, marking a fresh opening. As they explored, the team stumbled upon an unforeseen field complete of cabbages near the forest edge. Discovering no village near and night approaching, they chose to rest there until morning. At sunrise, following the gargoyle's direction, the group set off to locate the close-by settlement. Shortly, they reached a Chushino settlement, where a man slept outside the gate. Although their attempts to greet him, the man stayed snoring, completely ignorant of their presence. As the elf girl softly named out, the sleeping man awoke. Mesmerized by her confront, mistaking her for an angel, he attempted to reach out just to be knocked flat by the canine. Surprised, the man blamed them of being thieves, but they clarified they were adventurers heading to a cave. Relieved, he gave to accept them to the village leader for a proper discussion. Upon arrival, the leader welcomed the group. Observing the crowd, the party spotted how malnourished the residents appeared. Locke presented on his own Shannon and Lucky to the head, offering a polite greeting elsewhere. The sleepy gatekeeper bragged about detecting threat even while asleep, though the residents looked doubtful. Mocking each other's claims, the head and the man nearly started in dispute prior to calming down. Using the strain eased, Locke asked what issue required to be discussed. The head clarified goblins had invaded nearby marshes, disrupting crops and stealing meals for months. The head explained many had tried to beat the goblins, but finished up wounded or worse. Using desperation in his tone, he asked Locke if they could lend their strength. Although the group had contacted the kingdom and the guild, the pair ignored their own plea due to lacking funds. Locke wavered, torn between his desire to aid and the reality of needing compensation to survive. He concluded, which unless the residents could stand on their own, the problem power return again. Locke requested a map and details on the goblin warrior sightings to stronger assess the zone. He comforted the residents, noting the cabbage patch could ease hunger, and which defeating goblins was possible. However, he warned that unless an object shifted, the problem power just return again. To assist the settlement grow sustainably, he proposed a deal Bafinja Arsher of future profits in exchange for aid. Though startled, the elder wavered, uncertain if he could agree alone, while Locke observed their unease. Locke announced that if residents aided during the quest, he'd reduce his reward to just Bafinja Shir. He clarified which still then, he'd just take earnings after all costs and wages were covered. However, he understood the settlement had no special goods, poor fields, and was isolated out of trade. Rather of a quick fix, he stressed the need for lengthy Jan-term solutions and asked for moment. Believing his offer fair, he stayed hopeful the village could accept and start a fresh path forward. Locke moved aside briefly, asking to be shouted once the village chief was ready. Returning later, the head shared which residents were divided and unsure about the proposed deal. Still, he comforted that if cooperation was given, Locke could solve the goblin and food crisis lacking risking anyone. One man voiced disbelief, but the rest started murmuring aid, realizing the offer's rarity. Although doubt, still the injured skeptic weighed the possibility of helping once healed. Locke gave a handmade recovery elixir to the skeptical villager, questioning him to try it. As suspicion arose, Shannon volunteered to test it for poison, catching everybody off protector. Supported by her faith, she drank it and grinned. Impressed by its taste and effect, energized, she commended its flavor and glow sensation, stunning the others using her reaction. Even Lucky became excited, begging for a taste. Locke gladly poured some for the keen wolf. Following Lucky's joyful reaction, Locke handed the elixir to the yet skeptical villager. Doubtful, the man gulped it below, committed to show it was fake. But as shortly as it hit his tongue, he shouted in awe, stunned by its astonishing taste. Amazed, he asserted it was like drinking fresh apple juice, not anything like standard potions to him. It sensed nostalgic, similar to tasting his initial love, sweet, refreshing, and emotionally moving. Warren remained in disbelief as his hurt faded, and he moved freely for the first time in ages. Locke gave more potions in exchange for aid completing their own ongoing quest. Clasping Locke's palm, Warren eagerly accepted, asking him to mend the others as well. Introducing on his own properly, Warren said sorry for doubting and gave to assist however he could. Using the crowd assembled, the village chief asked if anyone yet objected to Locke's proposal. The party finalized their agreement with the residents and planned a feast to start their alliance.
Residents assembled cautiously about a bubbling pot, unsure of what to expect. Following one taste, their gaze widened in shock. The flavor was overwhelming. Manny couldn't believe cabbage was able to taste the situation fine. Previously rejected as horse feed, it currently gave warmth and comfort. Unwell residents who partook felt noticeably better, thanks to a recovery elixir silently mixed into the broth. Afterward, the tamer assigned Shannon and 2 youthful helpers to escort the residents during material collection. Although hesitant, Shannon was entrusted using the task. She embraced, ready to protect everybody from danger ahead. Using assurance, Shannon pledged to give her best. Orange insects A and B, although tiny, stood proudly ready to show themselves. Prior to anyone departed, Locke unveiled a plan to solve the village's trade and meals issues by building a direct road to Cronote. As he lifted his palm, a radiant wave moved through the crowd. Residents sensed power returning to their limbs. Some started jumping and moving using ease, astonished at their own agility and power. Locke had used wide-range, strengthening magic, causing admiration while softly warning everyone not to overdo it. Locke supported Shannon, assuring her which with practice she could use the same magic inspired. She appreciated him enthusiastically. The whole team sprang inside action. Beasts cleared trees, children moved rocks, and residents hauled materials with determination. As sunset neared, Locke shouted for a pause. Everybody paused, encircled by the progress they had caused. The group remained near to completion, using Lucky's sorcery easing the work. The road power be finished by tomorrow. Which evening, Locke reflected beneath the stars. Encircled by loyal companions and thankful villagers, he felt indeed fulfilled. As planning the following day's tasks, Locke encouraged Shannon to rest, recognizing her effort. She wavered, unwilling to sleep prior to him. He clarified he didn't view her as a servant, asking not to be named master. His words comforted her greatly. Gratefulness packed the instant as they exchanged genuine feelings. Meeting every other had plainly shifted both their lives. Returning to planning, Locke chose to have the residents harvest the cabbages prior to heading to the capital. Elsewhere, Shannon reflected on the guild mission, hoping the cabbage shortage in town could ease their trade. As reviewing plans, Locke stressed the importance of how the group win. Not only the outcome, Shannon had previously injured a sleep near. In her sleep, she gently commended Locke. A gentle grin developed on his face as he listened softly. He got to across and patted her skull. Using warmth in his tone, he thanked her for all things she had done. Elsewhere, the rest of the team slept peacefully beneath the night dome, every finding rest after a long day. Locke moved out and located Lucky conscious. Beneath the stars, they readied for what waited for them the next day. Locke and Lucky discussed the goblin danger and the scarce rainbow dragonflies. Noting they're easier to catch at evening, Lucky assured him which as long as they remained in the village, goblins wouldn't assault. Locke accepted explorers could handle the group. Using a nod, Locke embraced the plan beneath the moonlight. They readied to head out into the forest jointly. In the shining woods, Locke swung his net while Lucky dashed beside him, collecting the glowing insects using power and precision. Morning came quietly. Within, the kitchen bustled using cooking sounds as preparations for a fresh day were already underway. Locke woke to the sound of clanging out of downstairs. The sunlight had previously packed the room, signaling a fresh day. As he lowered the stairs, he assumed Shannon was preparing breakfast, an object she constantly did, the believed warmed him. To his shock, it wasn't Shannon. It was a demon woman in a frilly apron, brightly greeting him alongside a knife in hand. Flustered, Locke panicked and shouted in uncertainty, plainly not expecting her to be the cook which morning. The woman clarified she previously served meals at the Fiend Lord's castle, insisting she handle the cooking confidently. Locke greeted Shannon with a grin as she went into, startled to see her up and ready with her usual energy, apologizing for dozing off the evening prior to. She bowed politely. Locke assured her in that place was no necessity to worry. She clarified which she'd planned to cook but left it to Gargoyle Kun after her morning blade practice. Locke thanked her, although unsure how to feel about departing breakfast to a fiend chef in an apron. Shannon gestured out which Locke had gone out last evening. Himself, he couldn't exactly talk about being overworked. Shannon became flustered, insisting Locke misunderstood her purpose. She solely desired to be helpful, hoping to aid him. Locke thanked her genuinely and recommended they go catch dragonflies as one next time. She caused him promise, only as breakfast was prepared. Latter which day, Locke readied to visit the market, aiming to sell cabbages and deliver dragonfly pinions to the guild. Elsewhere, he observed the residents cultivating cabbage in the cleared farmland, planning to solve their meals supply problems long-term. Which evening, the road's completion was celebrated. Locke praised everybody, especially the young ants who beamed using ego. Residents voiced gratitude to Locke. One girl, once fearful of creatures, now grinned thanks to Patra's gentle nature. An elder humbly asked if Locke was indeed fine, using only 10% of the profits, amazed by his generosity. Locke comforted them, requesting payments be routed through the guild, and trusting all things could be handled properly. Prior to dawn, the group ventured out once more. The group recovered Orango's eggs and a scarce emerald protected by green frogs. Though they didn't find any dragons, Locke smiled as he felt an object. Fine was still waiting for them tomorrow. Isaac's team advanced faster than expected, ignorant their early arrival power trigger a dangerous event waiting at their destination. Morning arrived as Rock greeted his allies and stretched, prepared for one more day. Among the party, a minor bird landed on his shoulder, causing attention. The girl indicated out which the tiny being was none other than Skybird Chan, much to Rock's surprise. As recalling history events, he remembered Sky Avian being far larger. A scarce item had remained found during cleanup, possibly linked to the change. After eating which item, Sky Avian Chan mysteriously shrank, sparking confusion and interest among the team. Although puzzled, Rock resolved not to worry. The avian chirped gladly, showing no distress. Unusual odor filled the air as Rock traced it back to the big beast standing close by, suspecting the source immediately. Ans asked. Lucky wavered prior to claiming he had bathed just the day before. Rock lifted an eyebrow, gesturing out they'd been jointly the entire previous day, making Lucky's answer doubtful. The beast protested, insisting that licking himself was sufficient to stay clean, although the party stayed unconvinced. Lacking further delay, Rock rallied the others into a playful challenge. Whoever seized Lucky first could get him into the bath. Excitement surged across the party as they eagerly agreed to the challenge, while Lucky dashed off, confident no one could catch him. To prepare everyone, Rock used a support magic surrounding the party in a shimmering aura that enhanced their speed and strength. Thankful cheers followed as he clarified the temporary buff, making sure Lucky remained the just one unaffected to keep the game fair. Despite their fresh might, Lucky laughed boldly, alert them not to underestimate him. Patre stepped forward initial, charging alone, but Lucky dodged her effort with ease, unfazed by her assurance. Lucky leaped great to dodge Patra's net, smugly repeating which solo efforts wouldn't work, but her call summoned secret allies. Out of all sides, duplicates appeared, surrounding him. Prior to, he was able to react, vines and traps launched out of the ambush. Seized off guard, Lucky crumpled under the abrupt onslaught. Patra celebrated, beaming as Rock commended her quick pondering. However, Lucky wasn't finished. Using a burst of power, he remained and countered, wrapping up the trio firmly. Although the fell short pin, Lucky admitted their solid strategy. Rock nodded, recognizing they only lacked the might to hold him. Stone Demon Kun moved ahead next, confidently challenging Lucky using pride, as an elite soldier of the former Demon King's army. Lucky eyed him using amusement, unsure if this opponent could indeed offer a confront, causing on a century of fight experience. And Rock's mystical buff, Gargoyle charged with intense determination and a loud roar. Although his passion, the result was swift. Lucky lightly slapped him aside, ending the duel instantly. Shannon afterward moved up. The following round started. Shannon, blade in palm, confronted Lucky. Both were serious. Neither intended to hold rearward. Shannon rushed using speed and precision, facing Lucky's skull. Both moved quickly, testing every other's reflexes in a fast-paced battle, mocking her attempt. Lucky asserted she lacked the skill to land a hit, his assurance remaining firm. Unfazed, Shannon unleashed a barrage of chain thrusts, increasing the pressure using pure intensity and relentless offense. Although her display, Lucky dodged using ease, praising her effort but naming the attacks too unrefined to connect. Abruptly, her strikes sharpened. Lucky's appearance moved as her accuracy spiked, catching him off guard for the initial time, as the duel pushed on. Lucky abruptly found on his own at a range, unsure when Shannon had gained the advantage. Using quiet composure, she raised her blade and warned him to stay yet, suggesting he surrender and bathe. Her sword sought precisely, her appearance unwavering. The slightest move was able to overcome. Recognizing her growth, Lucky commended her attempts. Although she ultimately admitted beat, she embraced his words with pride and gratitude. Currently, it was Rock's turn. Using silent resolve, he moved forward, ready to take on Lucky himself this time. For real, Rock faced Lucky immediately, both radiating intensity as the final duel started in earnest. Before they could battle, a sweet smell drifted across the air. Lucky stopped briefly, puzzled by the fragrance. Sky, Avian emerged above him, restraining a single flower. Moments afterward, the mighty Fenrir fell inside a deep sleep. Rock identified the rare sleeping flower and quietly thanked the minor bird for the unforeseen assist. Using Lucky unconscious, the party cheerfully readied his bath. Elsewhere, far aside, Isaac seethed in irritation, vowing revenge against Locke. Within the wagon, strain hung thick as Isaac lashed out, while a quiet voice reminded him they had betrayed Locke first. Memories of past battles flooded his mind times, once Locke stood on the front lines, helping them rise to scrade although their scorn. Humiliation burned inside him. Bound by irritation, Isaac swore he could prove his strength lacking, relying on anyone. One companion softly said sorry, admitting the rainbow dragon's flames frightened her, and which she could not contribute much. Silence settled before Isaac announced they could gather the Ornos eggs alone, committed to reclaim their pride. The dispute resumed as Isaac bristled, while she quietly challenged his arrogance and growing hypocrisy. She pointed out his failures, embracing dangerous requests lacking discussion, and forcing others to follow lacking consent. Beat in remarks, Isaac withdrew, telling her to move as she wished. She afterward announced herself chief for this mission. Their wagon at last got to the mountain near the labyrinth. Isaac paid the driver, although the man insisted more than accepted. Frustration flared again. Already burdened by ego and doubt, Isaac understood even minor setbacks now felt like heavy blows. After paying the reluctant driver, Isaac observed the wagon depart, irritation lingering as the team proceeded on foot toward their destination. The enormous gateway of the Verdant Leaves dungeon rose before them, and Isaac challenged whether anyone capable remained to support him. Using just 4 days left until the deadline, the trio advanced in silence, committed to complete the mission despite rising pressure. Elsewhere, Locke and the others relaxed, gladly beside Lucky, ignorant of the tension building inside the dungeon party. The team went into the dungeon of Verdant Leaves, aiming to beat the dragons deep inside. Every member progressed quietly, focused on the task. As they spotted Orangos close by, one girl reacted using shock. They intended to finish remaining quests if moment allowed. Approaching a quiet lake, the leader spotted an object was off, no dragonflies or frogs in sight, which was strange. Although Orangos emerged, their own eggs were missing. Lacking the group, the mission couldn't be completed. Doubt emerged. Maybe the association misled the group on reason. If revealed, the consequences could be solemn. While preparing to depart, rustling near broke the quiet. Out of the shadows, a goblin lunged ahead lacking warning. Reacting quickly, the swordsman pulled his sword. Using a clean slash, he carried the assailant down midair. Uncertainty moved as more goblins emerged. He understood the guild not once mentioned goblins in this zone. Between the foes, a heavily armed goblin warrior emerged, leading the group with menacing presence. Encircled, the group grasped the fact. This wasn't a coincidence. This was the heart of a goblin nest, and the group had moved straight inside it. Charging ahead, the swordsman attacked the goblin knight, but the enemy stopped the blow with surprising force. As further goblins darted in, he parried desperately, their own attacks relentless and coordinated. His teammates remained rearward, recognizing their reliance on Rock's divine protection, had masked their own weaknesses. Uncertainty crept inside his thoughts. Failing to such an opponent felt impossible, yet dread gripped him as he wrestled. Abruptly, a flame lance burst out of behind, engulfing the warrior. His ally moved in, saving him only in moment. As one, the group readied to recover. Though injured, he brushed off concern and demanded he wasn't in threat of losing. Yet, his breath betrayed exhaustion. Shifting focus, the team braced themselves as further goblins progressed. Weapons were lifted lacking uncertainty. After a hard, battled clash, the combat zone fell calm. Dozens of goblins lay motionless nearby the group. One member verified the goblin warrior had been their chief. Using his fall, the danger had finished. Lacking delay, the group regrouped. Their next aim was clear: defeat the dragons and go back. None wished to linger in foe territory every longer. Clusters of dragons assembled atop rocky terrain, their own growls echoing across the valley. Out of behind cover, the team assessed the predicament. There were further dragons than expected, causing a quick strategy, targeting two which stood apart. They accepted to strike from a range first and draw them out. Charging in, the chief baited the creatures. As the dragons took flight, he signaled his group, lacking hesitation. A volley of fire arrows attacked mid-air. As the dragons crashed below, he moved in, sword ready, to finish what they started. With swift motion, Isaac slashed down two dragons, preparing to attack the next, lacking pause. Abruptly, a third wyvern lowered behind him, catching the rest off guard. The girls remained hit by its pinions, thrown back by the power. Isaac darted across, worried for their safety. Irritation flared as Emi scolded him, saying, "Locke would have shielded them stronger." Isaac was departed speechless, furiously. He protected himself, blaming the ambush and refuting Locke's involvement. The strain among them grew, exposing cracks in their teamwork among the ongoing threat. Irritated and afraid, Emi lashed out. She pressed Kara to exit, convinced they'd die if the group stayed. Ignoring Isaac's protests, she announced their own split. The choice was final. She had no further faith left. Kara hesitated but trailed Emi, leaving Isaac shocked as he observed them walk away. He clenched his hand, realizing still they had deserted him. Their parting remarks resounded. They'd rather be using Locke. Memories of harsh comparisons came back. Locke commended, Isaac belittled. The burden of rejection settled in as he remained isolated once again. Haunted by constant comparison, Isaac snapped. Fury built as he stood surrounded by dragons, overpowered and alone. Using twisted determination, he smirked. If he couldn't win, no one could. Defeat could be revealed. Yelling Locke's title, he announced his intent to outdo him. Gripping his blade, he readied one final move. Power surged nearby him. The girls viewed in surprise as he unleashed a mighty skill, Grand Cross. A blinding detonation engulfed the valley from afar. A blast shot upward, erasing the combat zone and shaking everything in its route. From a faraway settlement, a huge cross-shaped explosion lit the sky. Witnesses instantly identified it as Isaac's doing. Locke quickly assembled Shannon and the wolf, Lucky instructing others to stay behind as he readied to investigate. Arriving at the scorched valley, the group located thick smoke and staggering survivors emerging out of the devastation. Isaac was barely conscious, assisted by his injured teammates. Locke and the rest realized all dragons and supplies were gone. The mission was currently impossible to finish. Locke challenged Isaac, challenging his reckless decision and the honor that led to failure. Isaac proposed buying supplies to fake mission success, insisting they had to win, no issue what. Locke declined, sensing their power still be dragons remaining. He chose to check within the labyrinth. Isaac walked aside bitterly. Locke stayed quiet. He wished they'd cross paths again, but beneath stronger terms. Outside the labyrinth, they located the corpse of a goblin warrior. Its aura lifted fresh questions. The canine deduced it was likely the chief of the goblin horde Isaac battled. Using it gone, future attacks on the settlement remained unlikely. The crater left by the detonation verified their fears. No dragons remained. All things had remained ruined. Still, the leftover supplies remained unusable. Shannon sighed in defeat, while Locke considered Isaac's unforeseen arcane capability. Only as they shifted to exit, Lucky excitedly uncovered a hidden nest within. Untouched wyvern eggs shimmered. The eggs had survived beneath a rock, guarded out of the blast. They chose to store them in the mini-creature sanctuary for safekeeping. Rearward in town, residents celebrated the goblin's beat, yet Locke stayed focused. Further threats awaited in the marshlands forward. Locke clarified the outdated map. Clarifying the zone was the labyrinth of verdant leaves all along. While awaiting for Isaac to report to the guild, the party aided the villagers' farm and planned for capturing rainbow dragonflies. By the morning of departure, their own improvements had gone far beyond expectations. They built a stronghold at the village's gateway. Locke modestly embraced their praise. Still, as the residents cheered, the settlement was currently well guarded. Using heartfelt thanks, the residents pledged to keep developing. Using the knowledge Locke's team had passed on, a fresh chapter waited for. The residents celebrated, renaming their own home Cabbage Settlement to honor their success and growth. As the party readied to depart, the residents sent them off with gratitude and cheerful farewells, with their journey not yet across. The group set their sights on Kronto. Isaac yet awaited, and their final confrontation drew near. Rock reached at the regal capital, Kronto, scanning the marketplace for someone companion. A shout out of a range caught his attention. Warren had spotted him. The two reconnected near the merchant stalls. Warren clarified the booming success of their own cabbage sales, crediting Rock's suggestion to proposal soup and rolls for sampling. Their own special products, sold at full price, had fully cleared out, surprising still the locals. Using earnings growing,
Rock proposed reinvesting in the village, perhaps a sorcery cow. Warren accepted, amazed by the advancement. Thanking Warren, Rock grinned. Their own preparations were at last finished. Rock neared the Adventurers Association, resolved to see things through. Within, his former team waited for him. Their chief, smirking, greeted Rock harshly and taunted his arrival. Suspicion hung in the air as one member charged him of running away. But Rock stayed firm, rejecting any such claim. Rather than argue, Rock tested them to compare results and requested a review of their own gathered resources. As the guild staff began appraising the items, the opponent group scoffed, masking unease with arrogance. Strain arose as everybody waited for the verdict. Mocking assurance flooded the room as the rival insisted Rock bow and apologize. Refusing the humiliation, Rock quietly remained as the guild staff started announcing the collected items. The opponent team had decent supplies, although which the appraiser declared Rock the clear winner of the duel, shocking everyone present. She showed which Rock had submitted a far greater quantity of great value items, including wyvern materials, well beyond expectations. Shocked by the result, the opponent protested. He couldn't receive which Rock had succeeded, particularly after arriving later at the dungeon. Irritated and cornered, the opponent seized Rock, blaming him of colluding with the guild to cheat. Remaining composed, Rock tested him to explain how he'd acquired his own resources, lacking resorting to market purchases. Feigning assurance, the rival demanded he had assembled them through honest monster hunting. Rock then revealed a key detail: his opponent's items bore the Chushino settlement mark, proof they were bought, not won. Recalling a trap he'd set earlier, Rock showed he had baited the lie using planted remarks, anticipating the rival's desperation to win at any cost. Rock disclosed the rival's flawed assumption that buying out market supplies could block any chance of their victory. He afterward revealed the irony. Those items had originally remained sold by Warren's stall, making the rival's tactics self-defeating. Rock quietly gestured out which greed had led to overspending, and had the rival acted wiser, the outcome might have been different. To explain his previously arrival, Rock highlighted a deadly shortcut shown plainly on the dungeon map. A teammate confessed knowing about the route, stirring strain inside the rival party as blame began to shift. Fury overtook the rival as he shouted about the reason of the duel, questioning the need to danger for victory, treeing to rally aid. He questioned if defeating Rock wasn't their shared aim. His partner replied alongside silence and irritation. Ultimately, his teammates confessed the fact he had been the only one obsessed with winning Rock. Afterward noted a final remark, thanking them for unknowingly eliminating the goblins near Chushino settlement, which move had spared him extra expenses and benefited the locals, turning their reckless mission into an unintended favor. Rock hinted which perhaps the guild had orchestrated the events to aid the village, causing a grin from the staff. He disclosed he had anticipated the rival team could defeat the goblins, while Shannon gathered wyvern parts unnoticed. Rage burst out as the rival rushed at Rock, unable to accept being used so strategically. Before the attack could land, a powerful voice halted all things the guildmaster had reached. Using a stern gaze, he announced it across. One more had previously confessed, exposing Isaac's full involvement and closing his downfall. Isaac crumpled to his knees, overpowered by the burden of defeat and humiliation. Using all things concluded, Rock softly reflected on the events that had unfolded in the capital. The association started interrogating Isaac and his team. Their own misconduct resulted in formal punishment. Although Kara and Emmy remained spared harsher penalties due to circumstance, they were yet demoted for abandoning a teammate. Following the scandal, the previously pleased Growla team disbanded. Kara offered to form a fresh party with Rock, but he respectfully declined, choosing to move ahead on his own. Kid was imprisoned as further of his past offenses came to glow. Elsewhere, Kara and Emmy reconciled and started anew as a group. Isaac got away harsher punishment, but was sentenced to strongly labor. He would need to restart his trip out of E-grade. Elsewhere, Rock sat under a tree beside Fenrir, considering on everything which had transpired. Aunts asked what troubled him. He confessed he was only thinking about the past, though they'd shared their youth as one. Rock realized they never indeed understood every other, and now he was full of regret. Considering on the past, Rock understood his defeat had once led to his party's collapse. He couldn't allow history to repeat itself. Using clarity in his heart, he remained tall and embraced the lessons his failures had taught him. Resolved, he pledged to faith his new companions and use his strength to protect those who mattered most. Fenrir replied with a grin, prepared to face the road ahead beside him. Their bond, locked using a plain gesture, both were resolved to move forward together, stronger than before. With the incident resolved, Rock enjoyed serene days alongside his partners, their own bonds stronger than ever. Far from their calm instant, an ominous presence emerged in the capital, hinting at a looming danger that would soon shatter the calm. Ogres stormed throughout the combat zone, their roars shaking the earth. The explorers stopped,
overpowered by the sheer size and power of the advancing enemy. Using brutal power, the ogres smashed across defenses, walls trembled, and the fighters wrestled to keep formation as civilians viewed in terror despite the danger. One elder hesitated, anxious not about survival but about losing recognition if reinforcements reached. And Giant rushed, its hand aiming straight for the elder. Only in a moment, a mysterious warrior and his beast partner intervened. Riding a majestic monster, the newcomer faced the raging giant skull. Unready to turn the tide, Locke moved ahead, positioning on his own between the ogre's assault and the frightened pair behind him. Relieved by his timely rescue, the party voiced appreciation and offered to assist in his quest as repayment. Lacking delay, Locke launched a counterattack, commanding his beast alongside calm precision. As they faced the rampaging ogre, Emmy hit out of a distance using magic, landing a powerful flame lance. Her reminder continued Locke focused mid-fight. Prior to moving on, Locke entrusted Patra using team command. Confident and bright, she agreed to the task without uncertainty. The group swiftly organized into smaller units, each team ready to take on specific tasks during the battle. As final preparations were caused, Age sorcery was cast, boosting everyone's physical abilities before the assault began. Using a unified shout, the whole group launched forward, clashing head-on with the advancing ogres at the gate. Every member struck with precision blades, spells, and summoned beasts, tore across the enemy's ranks, lacking hesitation. In a swift motion, Locke's beast companion slashed across one giant, securing another clean victory for the party. Locke observed the injured ogre and observed its flaw, though it was officially ranked high. Lucky replied. Using direct honesty, Patra's coordination turned the tide. Her commands kept the explorers moving efficiently across the disorder of battle. While Shannon and Patra displayed impressive teamwork, others entered in, launching waves of attacks which weakened the foe further. However, not every blow landed. One giant deflected wind magic effortlessly, stunning the caster using its resilience. Identifying Gargoyle's struggle, Locke and Lucky ready to assist, understanding his current limits due to locked powers. As the last ogres fell, cheers exploded between the explorers. Locke verified the danger was across. Thankful survivors thanked Locke, although he stayed puzzled by the unusual appearance of so many ogres at once. The injured were tended to by a calm and skilled scientist, whose healing delivered immediate ease. Wary as she remained cheerful, her dull request for clothes in exchange for gratitude startled the others. Only as things settled, the order of the knights reached at last, their formation cutting through the tension with galloping power. Marcus, the warrior commander, declared an investigation and ordered full cooperation, asserting authority lacking room for protest. Outraged, one explorer stood prior to the guild, requiring recognition for their role in defeating the ogres. He gestured out which the quest was accepted and fulfilled, making the knights' moves feel dismissive and unjust. Marcus rejected the reward as symbolic, claiming the complete payment wasn't necessary beneath their jurisdiction. Infuriated, the explorer seized Marcus by the collar, shouting for proper compensation and admiration for their life, risking efforts. Marcus met the adventurer's glare quietly, alert him against provoking conflict using the knights. Prior to tensions escalated, a woman intervened, diffusing the situation using a plain clap and a composed tone. Apologizing for his outburst, the explorer stepped back as the woman requested a private word using the warriors. Elsewhere, Locke and his group observed the unfolding situation softly, sensing deeper issues at play. Afterward, in private, the explorer voiced worry if such injustices persisted, the nation risked losing its adventurers entirely. Titus clarified how explorers were crucial not simply for defense but for solving everyday problems, hunting monsters and exploring dungeons. He emphasized their class in securing magical resources that boosted national power, although Marcus failed to recognize their value. Considering on his history using Marcus, Titus confessed shock at how emotional he had become during the dispute. As the conversation settled, Titus requested a favor out of Locke, hinting at a fresh task awaiting him. A surge in arcane stone thefts prompted Titus to entrust Locke, using investigating the growing problem silently. Locke embraced the investigation request, agreeing to aid still if the culprit remained unknown. Though success promised greater reward, abrupt growl out of Emmy's stomach broke the tension, causing laughter and a quick decision to eat first. As enjoying skewered pork at the market, Locke and his companion seized an instant to relax and bond. Emmy said sorry for the interruption, but Locke comforted her. It had been a received break from the stress. After the meal, Locke stared ahead using renewed power, ready to continue preparations for the mission ahead. Locke went into the weapon shop using his team, greeted warmly by Mateo, the friendly shopkeeper. Their conversation shifted to Locke's history party, which had failed to recognize the value of his aid magic. Mateo disclosed he had long known regarding Locke's divine blessing, and asked the mismatched equipment his former allies used. Locke clarified he needed help finding weapons suitable for his new team, many of them minor or strange in form. Identifying the group's uniqueness, Mateo was shocked to realize he was helping a queen ant and a former fiend general. Mateo supported Locke to browse freely, amazed as constantly by his quiet strength and growth. The team eagerly tested weapons, attempting different types using excitement and a few comical mishaps. Following some trial and error, everybody settled on a choice, proudly showing off their fresh gear. Petra selected a staff, as Locke verified he didn't need fresh weapons. Preferring to rely on sorcery, although uncertain about her abilities, Petra voiced a wish to support the rest, using magic, just like her papa. Locke softly supported Petra, assuring her which with practice, she could access mana and grow stronger. Her excitement was obvious, and her natural leadership caused her a promising candidate for aid magic. As the shop quieted, a stranger went into, lacking alert. He attacked Petra, sending her flying across the room. Locke darted to her side, amazed, while the man harshly referred to her as a monster. Appalled, Locke challenged the man's cruelty, enraged which such prejudice existed even here, in plain daylight. Locke stood firm, glaring at the arrogant intruder who taunted him and belittled Petra using a twisted smirk. Tension arose in the marketplace as a cloaked man taunted Rock and his partners. Lacking caution, Petra collapsed from an abrupt strike, prompting Rock to rush to her side, alarmed by her fall. Moments later, she sprang up brightly, showing no injuries and disclosing the assault barely affected her. "Where is the man?" demanded notice. Rock and the others quietly ignored him, shifting focus to Petra's well-being. Irritation mounted as the stranger was dismissed using biting questions, his presence reduced to a joke among the party. After being ignored, the man shifted his back with contempt, naming the party peasants and preparing to reveal his identity. Declaring himself as Missile, he boasted about his noble lineage and his standing as the likely future chief of the warrior order. Rock stepped forward calmly, dismissed the danger, and insisted an apology for Petra, lacking a hint of fear. Irritated, Missile shouted on the elf girl to support him, attempting to use her heritage to pressure the party. Rather, he insulted her age and origin, causing glares from everybody around as his arrogance escalated. Enraged by Missile's insult, the elf young woman moved ahead and shouted in defense of Rock, refusing to tolerate the disrespect. With her blade drawn, she approached confidently, cautioned Missile that she could personally correct his behavior before the conflict escalated. One more warrior appeared beside Missile, his commanding presence shifting the atmosphere instantly. The senior warrior apologized for Missile's moves and proposed sincere words to Petra, acknowledging the improper conduct. Rock embraced the apology after Petra revealed no resentment, closing the incident using dignity and restraint. The warrior leader confirmed Rock's identity as a renowned S-grade explorer, calling out Missile's ignorance as foolishness. Later, an investigation started concerning stolen combustible rocks, and the chief questioned Missile's progress. Receiving no clear answer, the blacksmith reported which the thefts occurred weekly, using the latest incident happening earlier which day. Rock noted which the thefts too affected the knight's storehouse, suggesting a broader pattern tied to the missing resources prior to departing. The knights asked to be informed of every findings, and Rock agreed to aid the investigation. As the warriors departed, Rock and his partners reflected on the leader's demeanor, noting he was less intimidating than expected. Rock then requested to see the specific places where the combustible rocks had remained taken to gather more proof. Within the workshop, they inspected the storage chamber where the stolen items had remained kept, evaluating the surroundings. Rock observed 2 entrances and understood it was possible for a thief to enter unnoticed by the shop owner. He asked the thief's motives, doubting the aim was resale, since far additional valuable weapons had been left untouched. Mateo revealed Rock a locked chest, where untouched gems were kept, noting no theft had occurred out of it. Since no clear leads appeared, Rock chose to summon his companion to assist with the investigation. Receiving permission first, a big, fluffy creature called Lucky showed up in the cramped room, surprising everyone with his massive size. The blacksmith identified the beast as Fenrir, having only heard of him across stories until now. Although Rock asked Lucky to track the thief by odor, the monster struggled to distinguish it due to lingering smells. Although Lucky felt regret for not helping, Rock thanked him warmly and rejected any disappointment using kindness. The blacksmith admired Rock's skill to summon familiars across the wristband, expressing his amazement at the technique. He recalled once he initially met Rock, describing how clumsy he used to be, surprising the rest. Interest became as Petra, and the elf girl urged him to share more, though Rock tried to halt the teasing. To apologize for previously events, the blacksmith gave a gift to Petra, presenting it with genuine intent. The blacksmith proudly showed which the breastplate was crafted out of mithril,
a rare and durable metal. Rock was astonished by its importance, knowing that kind of equipment was usually reserved for royalty or elite nobles. Explaining its origin, the blacksmith revealed which it was originally made for a noble child who had injured ill. Rather than discard his hard work, he proposed it to Rock's team, hoping they could make fine use of it. Rock embraced the gift respectfully, agreeing to go back in a few days after the blacksmith caused necessary adjustments. The following day, a party of young girls faced off against a charging pack of wild boars using assurance. Patra and her group took below the monsters with swift and precise strikes, showcasing overwhelming might and coordination. Rock observed their progress, pleased by how swiftly they had adapted to using weapons after solely a single day. Watching their fluid teamwork and effectiveness, he grinned softly, hopeful about their proceeded development. Using the creatures defeated, Rock declared the subjugation finish and praised the team for their flawless execution. After the mission, one of the young girls tugged on Rock's cloak, softly naming him Papa while clutching her spear. He softly grinned, praised her for her attempts, and gave her a soft pat on the head for reassurance. The others swiftly lined up, keen for the same recognition, their eyes sparkling as he patted every of them in turn. Afterward, the party crumpled in blissful satisfaction, lying on the grass while Rock observed over them with quiet joy. Abruptly, he sensed an object new, an announcement of the birth of a sacred beast called Wyvern. Hinting at new challenges ahead, the egg started to fracture, showing newborn sacred beasts stirring to life. Everybody viewed with excitement as the creatures emerged, filling the zone with soft cries. Rock praised Sky Avian for guarding the eggs, startled by how swiftly they hatched. A message verified his bond using the holy beast Wyvern. While Lucky stared on confused, using fresh upgrades unlocked, Rock selected a mine, a banana tree, and hot springs, preparing for what lay forward. Glow exploded across the land as the upgrades triggered, reshaping the terrain. A mine gateway unsealed, and a steaming hot spring emerged atop a rocky rise. Rock observed the flourishing sanctuary, now bearing bananas, pleased of its rapid advancement. Riding on swift creatures, the team set out to report their own mission and deliver resources. Abruptly, their own mount halted mid-run. An object ahead had seized its attention, alerting the party to a possible threat. The party spotted a faraway formation beyond a field of graves, the atmosphere thick with unease. A odd flame floated near an intersection, flickering prior to darting off. Shocked, the group darted to investigate. Reaching the graveyard, they looked for about, but the enigmatic fire had already vanished. Shannon paused, visibly unsettled as a chill crept across her, causing worry from the others. Embarrassed, she confessed her dread of ghosts, attempting to laugh it off. Rock softly reassured her, easing the strain using a quiet gesture. Rock comforted Shannon, reminding her she wasn't isolated. She grinned, comforted by his remarks. The group neared the gravestone and uncovered it belonged to the legendary sage. Demorde based to history, she played a vital class in shaping the nation's advancement and peace. Across wisdom and bravery, Demorde negotiated using the Demon Lord, bringing lasting peace to the land. Awed by her legacy, the team reflected on the tale as the sun started to set, then softly made their way back toward the guild. Upon returning to the guild, Rock encountered an intense dispute across a flawed quest request. A frustrated man demanded the issue lay in the quest details, which caused explorers hesitant. Identifying Rock, the man begged, using him to accept the job, handing over the quest notice. The task involved investigating deadly combustible rocks in the sewers for solely 30 gold coins. Outraged by the low reward, Rock named him out. Recognizing the man expected others to risk themselves for little and go back. The warrior insulted the guild receptionist harshly, naming her useless and ugly in front of everybody. Her smile vanished. Using a dark presence rising, she coldly asked if he dared call her ugly, terrified by her menacing aura. The warrior back below. She quietly accepted to post the mission. Rock checked on her as the warrior fled the association, stunned and humiliated. Although all things, she smiled again and chose to learn from the encounter, deciding not to cause danger for others through further conflict. Yet bothered by the insult, the receptionist plotted subtle payback as Rock examined the assignment. He and Shannon went into the sewers, enduring the stench as they examined for the hazardous gems. Rock spotted several contaminated rocks and employed sorcery to clean the group for inspection. Recognizing it wasn't enough proof, Shannon proposed to check further down the tunnel. Confident in her balance, she stepped forward, but the slippery earth sent her spinning out of command, just as Rock alerted her to be cautious. Only as Shannon slipped, Locke seized her in a moment, steadying her in his arms. She blushed greatly, apologizing while Locke recalled her that assurance without caution can be risky. As he softly grinned, Shannon's heart raced, flustered by their closeness and his gentle gaze. He carried her out of the sewers, the pair agreeing to exit the foul smell at the rear of. Later, beneath the moonlight,
Locke lightly invited her to join him at the hot springs, leaving Shannon amazed and wide-eyed at his sudden boldness. Ryuji cautiously observed the young dragons flapping their pinions. Gargoyle proudly moved his wings, showing his flight wasn't only for show. Ans asked to scout the capital's outskirts. He confidently accepted, claiming he could still carry 2 passengers. Ryuji shifted to Shannon, who wavered, flustered by the abrupt attention. Prior to long, the team readied for departure. Shannon entered in, and beneath the moonlight, they took off, riding across the night sky on Gargoyle's back. Shannon held on firmly, attempting to steady her nerves mid-atmosphere. Below, the royal city unfolded like a sea of stars, shining brilliantly in the evening. Awed by the view, the team admired the lights, wishing to share the instant using the others. Stone Demon, usually modest, sensed ego as he carried them effortlessly, glad to contribute in his own way. Ryuji comforted him, reminding that flight, cooking, and daily aid remained more than enough. The team soared on, their own bond deepening beneath the moonlit sky. As flying, Ryuji mentioned the notion of undoing Gargoyle's seal, but the latter dreaded losing his sense of self. They accepted to one day fly as one again, once the wyverns matured, sharing dreams under the moonlight. Ryuji showed a wish, finding a companion sturdy enough to carry his partner. Lucky, he talked of a griffin, a trusted friend, mighty enough to manage the task using ease. As gentle bubbles arose under the surface below, the group resolved it was time to return. Ending the night's peaceful flight, the team reached at a hot spring, greeted by the sight, using excitement and awe. Yelps darted inside the water, laughter echoing as steam rose into the sky. Shannon felt a little flustered, but grinned as everybody assembled to enjoy the moment. One by one, the group went into the warm spring. Shannon and the rest relaxed, soaking in the quiet atmosphere. Still the canine, once wary of water, found calm in the warmth. Ryuji observed softly, amused by the change, content to see everybody enjoying themselves. The youngsters splashed playfully as Shannon shared a laugh, enjoying the instant in the hot spring. Near, the white canine thanked Ryuji for freeing him from the dungeon and bringing him to this calm. Ryuji, touched, voiced his own appreciation, knowing he wouldn't have survived lacking the wolf's help. Using calm faith, the wolf rested beside him as the others soaked in warmth, smiles surrounding the calm pool. Abruptly, laughter exploded as the mascot monster prepared an exaggerated dive, sending waves crashing and delighting the entire group. The following day, Patra proudly revealed off her fresh outfit, beaming as everybody admired how well it suited her. Mateo, the blacksmith, showed armor he'd crafted particularly for the ant kids, inviting the group to try it out. He clarified that making gear for youths was a scarce joy, so he created extra pieces just for fun. Overjoyed, the kids swarmed nearby Mateo, whose laughter echoed through the workshop as he demanded it was no problem. Aunt Ryuji gave payment. Mateo firmly declined, saying the gifts were expressions of appreciation, not items for sale. Ryuji gave a compromise, questioning Mateo to use the payment to help future explorers in need. Mateo smiled, startled by the motion, admitting it sensed like Ryuji was the one looking out for him. He agreed to set it aside, laughing using his partner as Ryuji disclosed the money came from leaving his old srank party. Abruptly, a tone shouted out urgently something was wrong. Ryuji and the rest darted to the rearward of the workshop. Using a tense appearance, Mateo reported that the combustible rocks had just been stolen. Mateo gestured out the window where an unusual blue glow had escaped. Ryuji swiftly directed Lucky to follow the odor. Within the cramped room, Lucky confirmed the trail was yet powerful. Ryuji directed everybody else to wait in the mini creature garden, lacking delay. He mounted Lucky and jointly they raced across the busy streets, weaving between people. As the city blurred history, Ryuji pondered who could have stolen the gems so stealthily. They reached at an eerie graveyard, stopping at Demorte's tomb, a place which sent a chill across the air. Ryuji verified the odor ended behind the tomb, and Lucky stood firm, certain they'd located the right place. Although Ryuji examined the gravestone, it revealed no odd markings or signs of disturbance. Abruptly, Sky Avian flew in, releasing a shining powder, an exorcism flower over the tombstone. A burst of glow exploded, catching Ryuji and Lucky by surprise, as an object began to react beneath the surface. With a loud rumble, secret stairs revealed themselves beneath the grave, leaving the party shocked by the secret passage. Mateo commenced reciting odd lines, causing confused glances from Ryuji and excitement from the kids. The youths burst inside laughter, dancing nearby as Mateo kept up his odd rhythm. Lacking pause, he proceeded quoting more lines while the room packed with cheer. Ryuji simply observed, unsure once it could end. Whereas exploring a gravesite, Rock uncovered a enigmatic staircase revealed by illusion magic. His spirit partners sensed threat out of its sudden appearance. Examining the entryway, he observed its narrow size. The canine spirit couldn't follow, and the strength of the mirage magic left him uneasy. Rock chose to proceed isolated, instructing the canine to wait outside. He pledged to shout if problem arose. With a light magic, he went down into the dim corridor, wondering if the stolen stones were secret below. Inside, he located a vast chamber, ominous and quiet, before an unknown tone greeted him from the shadows. Abruptly, a towering skeletal figure cloaked in dark power appeared, its jeweled skull confirming it was a lich. The being announced itself the rightful master of the tomb, challenging Rock's intrusion and arcane skill. Realizing the title, De Morte, Rock stopped in disbelief. Which fabled sorcerer had disappeared long ago? As strain arose, he readied his weapon, shocked by the revelation that De Morte had become a lich. A tiny fairy burst inside view, shielding the lich. She endangered to burn Rock living, unless he backed below. Lala hesitantly backed down after being scolded, floating off with a pout, whereas De Morte rejected her rant. Rock clarified his reason: to investigate repeated thefts of mystical stones tied to dangerous incidents. The pixie nervously asserted ignorance, although proof which led straight to the tomb's location. Once challenged, Lala stammered and swiftly confessed, overwhelmed by guilt and the mounting pressure. De Morte sighed in disappointment, reminding her not to meddle once more. Lala confessed she hadn't actually found any rocks, and had just stirred up more trouble. Rock requested if there was a reason behind the thefts, causing Lala to hesitantly admit De Morte depended on the gems to survive. De Morte revealed the truth calmly. Lacking those stones, his existence could fade no drama. Only fact. Far aside, memories moved of a moment, long past. The castle resounded using forgotten cheers and noise. In those days, De Morte had remained a lively sage, known further for guzzling's sake than wielding sorcery. Now, others at the table had crumpled from drink, while De Morte insisted one more round, as energetic as ever. Although being the Fiend Lord, he wrestled to stay upright after losing a drinking contest, leaving others unimpressed. De Morte asserted victory and told him of their own deal to end the war. The Fiend Lord hesitantly accepted. In a faraway land, trees had remained stripped bare by humans, forcing creatures to reclaim territory for survival. Lacking agricultural information, demons suffered out of meal shortages. War had remained their own just option. Using a hopeful proposal, De Morte gave to teach them farming, asking in comeback for calm. The Fiend Lord paused, surprised by the proposal. Using cooperation, fields flourished and meals grew into plentiful. The Fiend Lord and De Morte observed calm take root. Creatures previously driven by hunger, now feasted happily fulfilled. The group no further had reason to clash. Freed from war, De Morte shifted to researching food sustainability and proceeded her studies in calm. During this time, she welcomed an apprentice called Lydia, a gentle, warm-hearted girl using a constant grin. Although not gifted in magic, Lydia gained the people's faith across her kindness and words. De Morte admired her silent power and skill to inspire unity. Lydia commended her master's breakthrough, which could boost crop growth and reduce labor dependency. Using improved efficiency, they wished the meals crisis could be resolved much faster than before. However, Lydia hesitantly pressed De Morte to revisit her previous undead research, referring to its secret promise. De Morte firmly refused. She alerted that creating undead for farming could cross an ethical line she swore never to revisit. Though once near to completing which dark knowledge, she had locked it away, for the sake of all. The study had to remain buried forever. De Morte alerted which undead study could tip the world's balance. Still, if used theoretically. Lydia looked conflicted. Lydia rejected the worry, calm in her gaze. Made meals issues irrelevant breakthroughs should aim to astonish the world. Driven by ambition, she confessed her desire to make history. Solving hunger wasn't sufficient, she wished fame. Frustrated, De Morte interrupted. Lydia, feeling inadequate, dreaded she'd not once turn into the best and clutched her chest in despair. Not lengthy following, Lydia faded. The vault once closing De Morte's undead study remained open, its contents taken. De Morte devoted her remaining seasons to searching for Lydia, but her attempts finished in vain. Demise finally claimed her, yet her story didn't end, her essence lingered. Bound to sorcery and soil across centuries, her form reformed across lingering mana. She awoke once more, not as human, but as a lich. She had once wielded immense might, but now restrained it, whereas reshaping the space under her grave with illusion magic. Using no other choice, De Morte resumed her undead study this moment, using herself as the primary subject of study. Inside a locked stone chamber, a skeleton slumped against the wall as dark mist drifted from its form. Sorcery had fully run dry, abandoning it, unable to sustain itself. No gems or power sources remained in the chamber. Lacking supply, its structure weakened further, and movement turned into hard. Finally, the skeletal being fell flat on the chilly floor. Power faded, and its awareness nearly disappeared. Abruptly, a minor shining pixie descended into the chamber, hovering cautiously near the motionless undead. To her shock, the skeleton awakened and talked, showing that this chamber was its grave. The skeleton slowly lifted itself and recognized the pixie's sudden arrival, noting that no one had ever went into his grave before. Noticing her damaged wing, he observed her fragile state. The fairy reacted defensively, flustered by his dull remark regarding appearances. She confessed others had taunted her wing and named her ugly. Hearing this, the skeleton softly embraced her remarks. Rather of agreeing, he reasoned, which being a skeleton was likely further frightening than her appearance. Gathering bravery, she revealed her real sadness. She could not fly at all, despite being a fairy. The fairy grinned brightly as she gave her title, Lala. The skeleton replied quietly, introducing on his own as Demorte. Inside the stone chamber, they said at length regarding their pasts. She found out he had once remained known as a major sage. Gradually, they grew into every other's initial friend. Latter, Demorte disclosed that his existence could soon fade without magic rocks. Lala steadily chose she could bring one back and prevent his death. A man abruptly went into the chamber, breaking the calm atmosphere. Demorte immediately confessed to stealing the combustible rocks and asked which any punishment be directed just at him. Demorte quietly demanded the stolen rocks were his responsibility and urged Lala to remain silent, stunned. She protested and denied his assertion. Although her refusal, he proceeded to lie, claiming he behaved on impulse and had no connection to her. Lala rejected his remarks and attempted to protect him. Weeping formed as she announced he was her initial friend and begged him not to sacrifice himself. The young man observed the scene, aware which arcane offenses often carried severe punishment. Shifted by their mutual resolve to protect every other, he began considering a way to aid them both. The youthful man asked the pair of them about the stolen gems. Lala confessed taking one out of a shop but denied every knowledge of the knight's order. They clarified which just a single combustible stone had been carried back. The larger theft connected to the warriors was unknown to the group. As the man weighed their remarks, a sudden detonation shook the chamber. The earth trembled, startling everybody. Demorte pressed him to look outside. An ominous sound resounded out of beyond the stairs, in the range. The regal royal city burned fiercely. Flames consumed the king's domain, turning the sky shadowy using smoke. The kingdom lay in ruins, black smoke curling inside the sky. As Rock and his ally Lucky remained motionless, staring at the devastation from behind. The skeletal warrior moved ahead, requesting to join the group in returning. Rock looked rearward, considering the proposal. Inside the walls, disorder had exploded. Savage creatures swarmed the streets, tearing across anything in sight as terrified civilians ran in every direction. Frantic cries resounded across alleys as a lone soldier directed survivors to the western gate. Her sword raised against the oncoming horde. Blood stained the earth as she hit below another creature. Breathing heavily, she remained upright, guarding those yet able to flee. A monstrous undead pounced on the soldier, pinning him to the earth whereas he wrestled helplessly beneath its weight. Abruptly, a female warrior wielding a massive hammer crushed the monster with a single blow, saving the man in an instant. Reinforcements arrived. Rock and his companions were greeted using relief as Rika named out to her ally, thankful for the backup. They were informed which imprisoned creatures had turned undead and gone berserk inside the city walls. Although explorers battled back, the enemy's resistance grew. Just holy sorcery was able to end the rampage, but few possessed it. Although requesting aid out of neighboring nations, the warrior explained that aid would be delayed. Many explorers had previously fled the region. Amidst the spreading panic, Rock readied to move, entrusting the front lines to the armored warrior while assessing the undead danger. A terrifying party of mutated creatures appeared, powered by forbidden study. Suspicion fell on Lydia, whose dark energy remained near. It became obvious she had stolen combustible rocks, using them as power cores to animate the dead. Wasting no moment, Rock called forth his companions. As assigning roles, he commanded a coordinated counterattack to protect the remaining civilians. Charging ahead, a new wave of orcs thundered below the street, forcing Rock and his group into immediate formation. Demorte unleashed a towering inferno magic, Castle of Hellfire, reducing enemies to ash in an instant, drawing awe out of near allies. Introductions trailed, Rock comforted the others which Demorte and the pixie, Lala, were allies despite their undead nature. After expending too much power, Demorte requested sorcery rocks. Petra provided a big batch collected by their own team. Using renewed power, Demorte proclaimed, she could now form a holy barrier wide enough to purify the kingdom entirely. Demorte verified she could use the magic, but needed time. Rock's group pledged to protect her until the chant was finished, rallying jointly. Everyone rushed at the approaching orcs, launching a coordinated assault to hold the enemy back. On the combat zone, allies and summoned familiars clashed using the undead, every fighting to protect the caster behind them. Among fierce battle, the monsters abruptly began to vanish. Rock understood the reanimated were being erased prior to reviving. Uncertainty spread just the familiars could beat them. Remaining explorers wrestled, their attacks having no lasting effect. Rock swiftly understood the key familiars could harm the reanimated. He directed Shannon to inform the explorers to summon their own. Using a fresh strategy in play, they fought with renewed power. A glimmer of optimism came back to the combat zone. As the tide started to turn, Rock observed their advancement. Many reanimated had been vanquished, but the fight wasn't across yet. Reinforcements at last arrived. The Knight's Order marched in. But rather of comfort, their delay drew frustration. Rock's instincts flared. Something felt wrong. He tried to halt them, sensing peril from the approaching commander's ominous existence. Lacking caution, the Knights launched a volley of arrows at Rock's party, catching everyone by surprise as they scrambled for cover. Lucky quickly shielded the whole party, his magically reinforced fur deflecting the incoming projectiles using ease. Rock thanked Lucky, recognizing his quick pondering and sorcery had saved them all from the ambush. Confused and enraged, he challenged the Knight Commander, requiring answers for the betrayal. The commander stayed quiet, his gaze turning hostile. With shining red gaze, the Knight issued a lethal command ordering his forces to eliminate Rock's group while pretending to see more enemies ahead. Faced using treachery, Rock directed everyone to subdue the Knights without killing them. The rest nodded and readied for move. The demon ally summoned an intense gale storm spell, blasting the charging warriors backward in a mighty burst of wind. After the strike, injured knights littered the earth. Only as hope moved, they started rising again with eerie silence. Realizing the danger wasn't across, Rock realized they retained movement and resolved to act decisively. One knight lifted his sword, but a quick attack from an ally knocked him out cold before he could harm Rock. Patra alerted Rock only in time as a warrior tried to rise again. He appreciated her, recognizing he had let his protector slip. The warrior shouted furiously after being hit, confirming he retained awareness. Rock asked if they indeed knew their own identities. To his shock, the knight's gaze had came back to normal. The odd atmosphere about the group hinted the brainwashing was weakening. Rock concluded which magic had failed to wrest the command, but physical impact somehow disrupted the effect. He commanded the others to attack the knights with blunt power, hoping it could restore their minds. The party replied instantly. Rock pieced it as one following the undead struck. Someone else brainwashed the Knight's Order. The warriors had unknowingly shifted on their own allies, although being freed. One knight demanded Rock exit the battlefield, urging him to assist the evacuation instead. The warrior proudly announced his duty was to protect the people, reaffirming his resolve to clash. Rock silently admired his bravery. Using blade drawn, the knight rushed toward the enemy, shouting vengeance on behalf of the wounded kingdom. Ignoring the weaker foes, he set his sights on the strongest creature, landing a mighty blow without uncertainty. Using confidence, the knight hit the monster. But to his horror, the blow did barely any damage at all. In retaliation, the beast hurled him across the earth, departing him dazed and bloodied as it readied to strike again. The earth shattered beneath the creature's stomp, sending shockwaves across the battlefield. Everybody viewed in shocked silence. A strange woman emerged, stepping between the warrior and the creature. Her aura created immediate recognition and uncertainty. The woman rejected him as frail, telling him to flee. Enraged and humiliated, the warrior insisted to know who she was. Rock spotted Patra encircled by ogres and darted forward, aware which even her strength wouldn't withstand multiple hits. He battled through the horde with urgency, pushing past foes to reach her prior to it was too late. The largest ogre lifted its hands high as Patra stood defenseless, her gaze wide in shock. Lacking hesitation, the creature struck down with full power, and Rock could just scream her name as the impact hit. An enraged giant struck the earth, aiming to crush Patra, lacking mercy. The power shattered the earth under the group. Rock stopped as dust cleared, showing the ogre's massive palm clenched over something. Horror moved as everybody stared. Silence fell. Memories of cheers and warmth flashed prior to his gaze, Patra calling him Papa, smiling beside him. Tears welled as Rock roared her title, slamming his hand below in anguish. The burden of loss drove across his chest. Abruptly, pinions beat the atmosphere. A worm soared upward, carefully carrying Patra. Gasps shifted to awe. She was safe following all. Comfort swept the team as Patra went down safely, wings flapping above. The white canine verified her safety, pressing Rock to stay focused. Rushing across, Patra trembled and said sorry. Her tone cracking. Rock, yet stunned, watched her collapse inside his arms, overwhelmed. She gestured upward, explaining which the wyvern had saved her. It had grown immense, fighting off the giant mid-atmosphere. A partner observed the beast's rapid growth, crediting holy beastification. Rock appreciated the worm, amazed by the transformation. Enemies regrouped nearby. Urgency returned. Rock handed Patra a elixir, steadying her as they readied for one more clash. Patra remained upright again, her power restored. Rock grinned as she cheered, and shortly, the group launched inside the sky using precision. From below, Rock and the others observed in awe as the young riders resembled worm warriors. As the sky group struggled above, Rock led a charge on the earth. He confronted a mighty enemy and hit with determination. Injured, Rock knelt but declined to retreat. A companion man approached, blade in palm, blocking his path with menace. The danger grew into obvious. Titus must be eliminated. The Knight's Order sought to wipe out every explorer in their own way. Steel clashed as Rock confronted Marcus' skull. On the warrior commander's blows were brutal, overwhelming him with pure power and speed. One more blow landed strongly. Rock staggered, barely keeping his footing as his allies shouted out in concern out of afar. Retreating behind cover, he gasped for atmosphere, amazed by Marcus's power. The foe was relentless, unshaken by emotion. Irritated, Rock tried reasoning, but Marcus harshly asserted sanity. To him, the guild remained as the real danger to order. Elsewhere, the rest viewed and whispered, though powerful, Marcus was only the guild head. His title echoed everywhere. Marcus boasted of his regal acknowledgement, claiming superiority. His subordinates quietly affirmed, bound by loyalty or dread. Gaze darkened. He announced the Knight's Order was all the kingdom required. Rock, tense and wary, realized the madness at the rear of his remarks. Lacking caution, Marcus lunged to kill. Blades flashed as Rock braced, incapable to dodge in moment. A huge paw attacked below the Knight mid-attack. Lucky the spirit canine had intervened without delay, silencing the disorder. Regrouping using companions. Rock nodded. Although sore, he was unharmed. They gazed toward Marcus, unsure if the clash was indeed over. Marcus trembled strangely, his fingers twitching unnaturally. An object inside him had changed. Rock observed the odd movement and asked Lucky regarding the hit. The canine, unfazed, demanded Marcus always acted like witch. Laughter echoed ominously. Using steady steps, Marcus taunted their own casual tone. He located it ridiculous that explorers could joke while facing threat. His expression darkened. Rock sensed a fresh existence behind the tone. The man's tone, posture, and energy had shifted. Identity blurred. He announced on his own Lydia, successor of a mighty sage. The revelation stunned everybody. Marcus was no longer the one in manage. Rock faced Lydia immediately, requiring clarity. The response came using a smirk. He'd reveal all things prior to killing them. Using arms outstretched, Lydia proudly declared his aim to share the secrets of undead resurrection with the realm through his research. He intended to use the whole nation as fuel for his experiments. Still, demise wouldn't free his foes. They'd serve him as undead. Rock and Lucky fired rearward. Such people findings weren't his to assertion. De Morte had begun the work. Rock charged him of stealing explosive rocks too. Lydia grinned, amused. His silence verified all things without refuting a thing. Lydia confessed to stealing the rocks, mocking the knights for searching for a culprit that was within them all along. Using a theatrical sign, he commanded his undead and knights to massacre everyone present. The group tensed. His manic cheers resounded. Rock stayed quiet, disturbed by Lydia's descent inside madness as he screamed threats at no one. Waving goodbye, Lydia departed, convinced disorder had unfolded. Rock observed in disbelief, the town yet intact and silent. Lucky couldn't track Lydia's actual form. Simply as uncertainty moved, a new tone rang out. Someone had arrived unexpectedly. A towering skeleton mage abruptly emerged, declaring it would destroy any undead in its route. Rock blinked in that place, remained, none departed. Scanning the combat zone, the skeleton stopped in quiet. All foes were previously overcame. Its dramatic entryway was a step too late. Rock awkwardly apologized. The sorcerer sulked, muttering regarding wanting a beer rather. Still, its pixie partner sighed in disappointment. Using the mood reset, Rock requested for Lydia's location. The mage nodded seriously and gestured toward a faraway building. They reached at an upright watchtower under the moon. Lydia's existence remained there awaiting.
Beneath the full moon, Rock and his partner stood before a towering formation veiled in mystery. The party sensed an ominous presence from inside, confirming their target had reached. Using clear instructions, Rock ordered most of the team to remain behind while he approached the entryway with a select few. A skeletal sorcerer scanned the surroundings, showing the tower's door was merely a decoy cloaked in sorcery. The actual entryway materialized a staircase descending underground, previously masked by mirage. As the group lowered, a foul stench appeared. The party understood Lydia's corpse had defied natural decay. The party reached in a secret chamber where a lone woman stood drawing power from an ancient book under glowing magical runes. Facing the intruders, she challenged how they had bypassed her undead guards and voiced surprise at their advancement. Lacking hesitation, Rock revealed they had overcame every danger and mentioned the knights had regained their minds.
Although skeptical, the woman dismissed their claims using amusement, doubting their power and intentions. Abruptly, the skeleton stepped forward and identified her as Lydia, yet noted an object was wrong. She wasn't one of his creations. De Morte unleashed a fiery magic, Castle of Hellfire, sending waves of blazing heat toward Lydia in an effort to provoke her recollection. In response, Lydia retaliated using mighty magic of her own, summoning the roar of the water dragon, disclosing her command over ancient arts. Identifying the flames, she identified De Morte, startled by his survival. Exhausted but worn, she braced for one more exchange. He ridiculed her attempts, asking her transformation and ambition. Agitated, Lydia exploded using irritation and denial. Fueled by fury, she launched a dark counterattack, Eternal Darkness, Drain, signaling the battle had indeed begun. A violent battle of spells exploded as the mighty attacks collided midair, forcing everyone to witness their equal strength. Using intense resolve, Lydia asserted her growth came from years of training, challenging De Morte's perception of her. Unexpectedly, Petra strode in the direction of the battlefront. Challenged by Lydia, she replied using a sharp, punishing strike to the face. Annoyed, Lydia complained regarding facing them all isolated. Petra, now enraged, ready to unleash her own magic lacking restraint, watching out of behind. The others remarked how grave Petra had become her fury, sparked by nearly dying terrified Lydia into panic. Determined to regain command, Lydia used an illusion magic, multiplying her image across the chamber. Although the uncertainty, Petra hit decisively, hitting the true Lydia with a forceful blow. Amazed, Lydia understood her illusions were useless. Her actual body's foul odor had betrayed her position. Fueled by emotion, Petra announced she wouldn't let anyone make her father sad, showing her intense devotion. Using unwavering resolve, she stood beside De Morte, gripping her staff firmly, prepared to clash for the ones she cared about. De Morte requested to face Lydia isolated, asking the others to stand back as he took accountability for his former disciple. Recognizing his purpose, Petra moved aside. De Morte steadily neared Lydia, declaring it was moment to end what had long lingered. Channeling holy sorcery, he amazed Lydia, who understood the spell's fatal implications for the undead. The rest watched in disbelief as she panicked, knowing holy magic could erase both of them entirely. Using a steady tone, De Morte assured her it was fine, they could disappear together, ending the cycle of undeath once and for all. As De Morte readied to vanish, his companions wept out in desperation. Petra and the pixie begged him not to go, overpowered using emotion. Prior to he could finish the magic, Rock intervened, striking Lydia with a precise burst of holy magic. The strike left her overcome and shocked, confused at how Rock managed to cast it without chanting. Turning to De Morte, Rock quietly stated he didn't necessity to sacrifice on his own, not for someone like her. Lydia, frustrated and injured, understood she had underestimated them all and lost her final chance to erase De Morte. As Lydia's form dissolved, she swore to go back mightier. De Morte confirmed it hadn't been her real form, just a projection. Recognizing his mistake, De Morte admitted he had misjudged the predicament. Thankful to Rock for stopping him in time, the pixie and Petra darted to him in comfort. Stunned using joy, the group embraced him. Thankful he had survived. De Morte said sorry for causing worry, but disclosed their time jointly was nearing its end. Using no magic rocks remaining, he informed the party it was time to say goodbye. His presence could no longer be sustained. Lala begged to share sorcery rocks, but De Morte refused. He didn't want to burden Locke or rely on him any longer. Surprising everybody, Locke proposed an alternative. De Morte could stay by becoming his familiar, gaining access to unlimited magic gems. De Morte stopped briefly, considering on his unfinished business using Lydia. Locke's proposal offered him the chance to see it across. Though De Morte challenged the compatibility between dark beings and holy mages, Locke reassured him using a confident grin. Still knowing the risks, even possible disappearance, Locke remained firm. Without uncertainty, he agreed to the consequences and awaited De Morte's choice. Using a quiet expression, Lich, the Queen of Darkness, declared she could accept any fate as long as there was yet a chance to live on. De Morte relayed Lich's wish to turn into companions. Locke stood quiet for an instant, then listened as the request was caused. Realizing her might could just be weakened and not erased, Locke acknowledged the risk and agreed to continue. Believing in Locke's determination, Lich embraced the outcome. Their pact was locked. He swore to handle what lay forward. Across the holy beautification process, Lich transformed and officially became Locke's companion, unlocking new possibilities inside the creature garden. Using the creature garden expanded, Locke chose a small sea area looking ahead to collecting salt. Elsewhere, he requested regarding Lala's future. It was showed which when Lich became a companion, the bond automatically extended to Lala, making her part of the new alliance. Thankful and cheerful, both Licht and Lala voiced gratitude. The rest of the team warmly welcomed the group once more. Locke grinned as he recognized the fresh companions. A serene dawn broke, marking a hopeful fresh opening. Using the crisis resolved, Locke assigned tasks to aid rebuild the settlement. As the rest assisted the residents, Locke reached at the Adventurers Guild and was greeted by Rika at Gateway, who seemed to be expecting him. Using urgency within, strain flooded the room. Several great-ranking individuals sat in silence, and Locke swiftly realized his return was met with solemn attention, not praise. Tension packed the room as Rock went into and saw two former allies seated in quiet. Their own history conflict had plainly left behind a heavy air. Without warning, Rika moved in cheerfully, locking the door behind her without delay. Rock attempted to halt her but was too late. Breaking the silence, one of the seated men greeted Rock and voiced gratitude for making moment. Although his busy schedule, using his head lowered, he genuinely said sorry. His moves had nearly cost Rock his existence. Rock, quiet and composed, embraced the apology and asked him to raise his skull. Rock challenged the knight about the unusual behavior inside the order. The warrior confessed he had no recollection of the incident. Recalling the past, the warrior clarified that power have started 6 months ago after meeting a woman named Lydia. Throughout solo training, Lydia had neared him unexpectedly, cloaked and isolated. A peculiar odor remained in his thoughts. Although they had never met, he sensed an odd familiarity, likely caused by magic or drugs. Beneath her influence, the warriors were manipulated to believe falsehoods and assist in a shadowy plan to reshape the country. Under the spell's influence, the warriors began driving explorers out and forcibly collecting creature corpses for Lydia's cause. Now free out of manipulation, the warrior voiced deep regret and extended heartfelt apologies to Titus and the others affected. Titus, startled by the humility shown, reflected on how scarce it was to see such honor lowered in apology. Recognizing the honesty, he agreed to the apology, signaling a willingness to move forward. Using tensions easing, Titus proposed cooperation, determined to assist restore order and rebuild the city alongside those once weighed enemies. A firm handshake locked the truce. The warriors pledged to unite using explorers to rebuild what was lost. Elsewhere, the association examined for Lydia, the mastermind behind the brainwashing. Tracking her stayed challenging. Aya's reconstruction efforts began. The king declared that Marcus could bear accountability for the incident, though punishment could wait. Abruptly, word arrived Kid, the former hero, had fled amidst history chaos with the undead. Speculation grew. Was it a mistake or an object intended? As the sun arose a month later, calm remained, but uncertainty remained. After weeks of strain, the party enjoyed a peaceful day by the sea, basking under the sun using smiles and laughter. Locke admired the ocean view, standing beside his loyal partner, whereas the others expressed awe at the beauty nearby them. Noticing a change in her demeanor, Locke was said she had grown more bright since they initially met. She thanked him for saving her and confessed which her happiness was thanks to him, leaving Locke amazed. Among the joy. A question remained: why had they indeed come to the sea today? Locke clarified their own visit to the sea was meant as a rest, a reward after working hard on rebuilding the city. To lighten the mood, the group set up a beachside barbecue, inviting everybody to join in the feast. Laughter echoed as allies shared meals and promised to stick together, even teasingly challenging their bond's permanence. Using joy filling the air, the team ate heartily under the sun, savoring the well-gained peace ladder. Locke observed a bright avian companion perched nearby, realizing he had yet to give it a name. While grilling meals, Locke pondered a title for the bright bird perched on his head, unsure what would suit it. Jokingly, he proposed Yakitori, causing an immediate and flustered reaction out of the avian. Amused, Locke proceeded naming several grilled dishes, which just made the poor creature more anxious. Recognizing his mistake, he gently gave the title Sayel, which brought the bird joy and an enthusiastic response. Simply then, one of the girls complimented the meat's tenderness, as Locke shifted, slightly unsettled, glancing toward the plate in her hands. Locke challenged the woman's identity, solely to discover she was really a skeleton, using illusion magic to appear human. Brushing off the logic at the rear of it all, she pressed him not to dwell on details and simply enjoy the instant. One of the girls commended his cooking, stunned by the sauce, causing Locke to proudly reveal his unique recipe. Although flustered by compliments and requests for more, Locke chose to enjoy the meals himself as well. Cheers resounded across the beach as everyone played and feasted jointly, savoring the warmth of peace and friendship. Locke sat quietly by the rocky shore, fishing beside his big, loyal canine partner beneath the clear blue sky. Intrigued, the canine asked about fishing, and Locke eagerly clarified the basics. Inspired, the canine resolved to give it a try. Although lacking decoys, the wolf proudly asserted his tail alone was alluring enough to attract fish, amusing Locke. They rested side by side, enjoying the gentle breeze and quiet weather which caused the day feel perfect. Gaze closing slowly, Locke whispered that sometimes it's fine to only relax. The wolf softly agreed. Wary as the waves softly rolled, Locke and his partner rested quietly, embracing the fleeting stillness of time. Abruptly, the fishing line tightened, and excitement surged as the wolf aided pull in their unforeseen catch. To their shock, a mermaid appeared, clinging cheerfully to the wolf's fluffy tail, completely captivated by its softness. Whereas wandering along the shore, Rock and his wolf partner, Locke, stumble upon an unusual girl, hugging Locke's tail with glee. Her lower half reveals a mermaid's rear appendage, although entertained. Rock grows worried. Locke senses an object off, and the girl's odd conduct confirms it. The group decides she must go back to the sea. At Rock's command, Locke begins to fling her rearward toward the ocean, using his tail using intense power. She soars across the air, yet smiling, clearly enjoying the ride further than expected. An enormous splash follows her landing. Rock stands speechless, uncertain which thing only happened. A noisy splash startles the party, prompting one girl to ask what happened, but Rock brushes it off with a nervous grin. Abruptly, the same mermaid bursts from the sea once again, shouting for the fluffy monster she's obsessed using. Descending out of the sky, she crashes right onto Locke, firmly clinging to his tail while chanting happily. Locke, visibly annoyed this moment, prepares to retaliate using full power, ignoring her panic plea, although her claims of innocence. She clings tighter, committed to experience the fluff, no issue the cost. Locke launches the mermaid again using a mighty tail flick, causing one more explosive splash that leaves the others unnerved. Although the repeated rejection, she reemerges, yelling for her beloved fluff, as latching onto Locke once further. A quiet but confident woman steps ahead, invoking a powerful mystical field to contain the situation. Using a threatening grin, she offers the mermaid a choice: go back to the sea or face fiery consequences. Refusing to back below, the mermaid summons Leviathan, declaring war on anyone who dares keep her out of the fluffy creature. Leviathan, a colossal sea worm, emerges out of the water with immense power, towering above everyone. A wave of strain hits as Rock realizes the mermaid has called forth the strongest being in the sea. Using honor, the mermaid commands Leviathan to display its power, insisting it is the king of the sea. However, the beast surprises everybody by quietly introducing itself and greeting the team politely. Puzzled, Leviathan questions its objective, but the mermaid pleads, saying a fight is necessary to stay near to the fluffy wolf, trying to justify fight. The mermaid insists which exchanging hands is how land dwellers form friendships, confusing Leviathan completely. Ultimately persuaded, Leviathan agrees to show only a fraction of its strength, spinning energy around itself with magical precision. An enormous tidal vortex forms above, unleashing the storm of the water worm, a controlled yet overwhelming display. Amazed by the intensity, an opponent mage recognizes its might and decides to respond with her own strength. Summoning ancient spirits, she unleashes Illusio magic, conjuring ominous skeletal entities which confront even Leviathan's power. Leviathan, surprised by the ghostly mirage magic, screams in terror and declares it a creature. Frightened, the enormous dragon flees, trembling, as the mermaid desperately calls out, bewildered by his reaction. The party realizes Leviathan's dread of ghosts was the mermaid's secret weapon, leaving them both amused and startled. Attempting to recover, she proposes friendship using Rock, just to be flatly rejected, brushing it off with forced assurance. Hurt, she reveals her true reason, needing assist for her village, hoping the bond they formed across fight means something. Rock, puzzled by the abrupt mention of a village, listens as others mention unusual creatures like dragons and orange ants. Desperately, the mermaid pleads once more, this moment genuinely begging them to aid her troubled settlement. Her appearance softens as she begins to explain, but the team remains unsure of what kind of help she indeed needs. In a flurry of remarks, she mentions invading fishmen and pleads for assistance prior to things get worse. Only as uncertainty grows, Leviathan surfaces again, offering to clarify everything on her behalf, despite yet trembling from ghosts. Leviathan quietly explains which a mermaid village lies under the ocean, recently attacked by invading fishmen 3 days ago. Though there had never been conflict before, the fishmen, more beast than human, abruptly struck, lacking caution. Taking advantage of the village's lengthy standing calm, the attackers readily captured most of the defenseless mermaids. Leviathan admits his class as the village's guardian deity, but too reveals his lack of battle ability, adding to his shame. Rock, at last, understands all things may survived, just because she was away, sent to seek help from the surface. Leviathan humbly bows and asks Rock and his team if they'd be willing to aid save the mermaid settlement. Rock hesitates, asking how the group could even function underwater, just for Leviathan to offer a solution: airgrass. By chewing the scarce plant, one can breathe underwater and withstand the ocean's pressure. although it grows just in the village. Although yet uncertain, Rock considers the danger. A youthful girl steps ahead, urging him to aid. Supported by his partner's assistance, Rock agrees. As one, they prepare to descend inside the profound May bursts. Using joy upon hearing they'll aid, overpowered with gratitude and excitement. Lacking uncertainty, she lunges at Locke, declaring it a fluffy buffet just to be launched once again. Floating underwater, she spins gladly, whereas the team watches in silence, which marked the start of their own mission to aid the mermaids. Rock sank inside the ocean. Startled he could breathe and move freely with the aid of airgrass. He realized underwater battle remained a confront, still with mobility slightly improved. Abrupt burst of movement seized his eye as dragons charged forward, creating powerful currents. Their pinions sliced through water using ease, as one ally used wind magic to boost speed. Watching the group adapt so naturally, Rock sensed a spark of determination. Maybe he could clash underwater too. As the others prepared to dive, Lucky flailed helplessly in the water, plainly incapable to swim. Ada near cave was disclosed to be the route toward the hidden mermaid village, guarded by a watchful sea serpent. Without delay, the team plunged inside the tunnel, following the mermaid girl leading the way across twisting currents. At the tunnel's end, an astonishing sight greeted them: a breathtaking city under the waves, living using vibrant marine life. Awestruck by the underwater realm, Rock and his companions gazed in wonder at the beauty of the mermaid settlement. The party reached at the mermaid village, its breathtaking beauty secret beneath the sea by powerful magic, gratitude to a protective enchantment. The village stayed invisible to the surface realm, untouched for centuries. The mermaid clarified that no human had entered for generations, making their presence an extraordinary event, until abrupt danger rushed in. A patrolling fishman approached, causing the party to remain wordless and hide. Using threat near, Rock decided to take a narrow alley toward the castle, where the other mermaids were likely being held. Rock called on May to guide the party, and she boldly challenged the enemy, requiring the captives be freed. Before she could finish, the fishman darted in, but May wasn't finished speaking. Plainly seized off guard, lacking caution, she leapt into action, causing confusion as even her allies challenged her sudden move. Although the urgency, May rejected sneak attacks, resolved to face the enemy's skull on with honor. A mighty blast attacked unexpectedly, forcing Rock and his team to react immediately as the real clash began. The enemy uncovered their existence, forcing Rock's party into a direct confrontation as attacks rained down. Struggling to keep pace, Rock was pressed to grab on for support as the foe closed in swiftly. Using wind sorcery, they launched ahead at high speed, closing distance and preparing a decisive attack. Using perfect timing, Rock leapt onto the fishman mid-charge, believing the battle had finished in victory. Yet as the dust cleared, the foe stood unharmed, disclosing which their powerful blow had no effect at all. Although the strike landed, the fishmen roared with fury, not overcame but clearly affected. Rock swiftly analyzed the incoming spears, noticing an odd consistency in their own pattern and rhythm. By giving precise movement instructions, he guided their flight route across the barrage, using perfect timing. Every strike missed as predicted. Rock understood the foe was repeating the same moves over and over. Someone deduced the fishman's conduct stemmed from brainwashing, likely from the same source which had corrupted warriors before. Rock calculated a precise turn to evade attacks, showing the group had a strategy to counter the enemy's fixed pattern. In a bold maneuver, he seized the fishman mid-air and named on his ally to use tentacles to restrain them. The pair. The plan succeeded. They succeeded to bind the fishman, who could no further resist, though yet unable to speak. With little moment to reflect on the cause, Rock chose to focus on rescuing the others, lacking delay. Following capturing all the scattered lookouts, the team regrouped, amazed by how few enemies remained. May protested being tied up, but the worm clarified her reckless nature could have created problems. Soon after, she reunited using the other mermaids, who hurried to her side in ease. Madeline embraced her, overcome using emotion, and shed a tear which crystallized into a shining orb. Rock found out these rare gems, named pearl tears, were born from deep emotions in arcane mermaids. Introducing herself formally, Madeline appreciated Rock for his bravery, expressing thanks on behalf of the queen and the mermaid people. Rock understood their mission wasn't finished. Many mermaids, even the queen, had been taken to the fishman's settlement. He readied to depart, but Madeline stopped him, placing a pearl in his palm as a token of gratitude. Startled, Rock identified it as the same type of mystical pearl, this one gifted by all the mermaids he helped. Madeline requested for his aid once further. Using a grin, Rock promised to help them again, lacking hesitation. Far away, the heavily protected fishman village awaited, secret, fortified, and full of captured mermaids, yet needing rescue. Out of at the rear of a rocky ledge, Rock and the rest observed the overwhelming number of guards below. Above them, a human ship floated strangely beneath the sea, catching their notice using its odd presence. Suspicion grew once they spotted a fishman giving orders, one who plainly possessed intelligence and authority. Their own fears were verified as they witnessed mermaids locked in cages, using humans apparently involved in selling them.